Go to share. Let me show you. Isn't that it? Okay, good. Okay. Do you have the what? Yeah. Control. It's not complicated. Hold on. It's I'll do it once I send out the thing.
Oh, that's a
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Hello.
Hi,
Good morning. If you can do me a favor and wipe your hands for your protection and everybody else. Yeah. You know and wipe wherever you're gonna sit if you don't mind. Good morning. Thank you so much for coming.
Coming on time.
I drive down the street.
Oh, okay.
I have to be on time or it gives me anxiety.
Remind me your name, please.
Rachel.
Rachel, I know, I should know. But
so where's the projection going to be? This way?
There's no projection. You
Okay.
gotta have this. Oh yeah, I'm gonna be standing there. You can either be in the middle or on the side, wherever you prefer.
Any way you want to sit. Okay.
Give me 1 second to send out the link to. Most people are gonna be online, so don't feel bad if it's just 4 of us. That's just better.
My one friend, I can't even. This girl is still sleeping. I'm assuming.
She's sleeping.
I'm assuming.
And she paid to come.
And I'm telling you.
She wants to waste money now. Go ahead. Thank you for coming. Rachel, right?
Yeah.
Remind me your last name.
Montoma.
Okay.
Motoma.
Where are you from exactly?
Cameroon.
Oh, okay. You're a neighbor now.
Yes.
Nigeria. Okay.
Yeah.
So let me just do this real quick. I sent updated slides this morning. Check your email. And
I said I don't want to block.
Oh, you're not gonna block as long as you're sitting.
Hopefully
Okay, now since I sent you the stream,
Can you
let's see if
see?
it works. I'm gonna check it myself and see if it works. How do I minimize that? All right, so I sent updated slides this morning, so that's where we'll be following those slides. Did you get it?
let me check.
I should have sent it to myself. Sent.
Yeah, just now, right?
Huh?
You just sent it now.
No, I sent the link right now, but.
Yeah, you can check out the link.
Yeah, there's nothing from last night.
No, the stuff I sent was this morning. Oh yeah, the link works. Yeah, technology. Look. Now I sent updated slides this morning. It should say updated. All right, I need the mic to make sure it works with.
Okay. Yeah, I have.
I'm gonna ask you a random question. Are you Christian or non-Christian?
I was raised Christian.
You were raised Christian. You gave me a look, a really bad look.
No, not a
What
bad
was that look?
No, I'm in between right now.
You're in between. No, I just don't want to offend anybody because we're in a church. You know what I mean? That's what I was. All right, I have some. Come over here. There's some breakfast and all.
I just bought breakfast. I bought my own.
Well, there's water.
There's coffee.
Coffee.
Yeah, I bought my own.
Oh, okay. Well, it's good.
You should have given us a memo.
Well, I didn't know.
Oh no! I'll build my own expectations.
Okay, good. See, you're gonna do good. Good. Thank you. Oh, I didn't know it. Oh, I thought I had to use that. It came with its own. I don't know how to make this call.
Good morning.
Hey,
Oh, hey. Oh.
How you doing?
Can you believe she came all the way from Atlanta?
I did.
Thank you. Hold on. Wow. We gotta protect you. We gotta protect everybody. All right. Can you wipe your hands?
You drove straight?
She flew.
Okay.
Can you believe it?
Wow.
That's a gunner right there.
I knew I was gonna get the gym.
My bad.
And I believe in Ike so much.
Yeah,
wow.
Thank you. Sorry. Okay, now.
All right.
Wherever you're gonna sit, wipe it down the area too. Just
Okay.
the best way, right? You know what? Sit over. Yeah, if you don't mind sitting over there. Okay. Thank you for coming. I really appreciate it. Very flattered. The trash can is right here. And put it right here so everyone knows.
Okay. Okay, you did the rest.
Uncle Pat, Austin, please help me out. Because I'm multitasking.
I'm better at this.
Oh, so is Marley. Well, I don't know how to do that. I know. Marley,
Okay,
So you can-
I'll make it in, I'll figure it out.
Yeah, well, I came in yesterday and I'm flying out right after this.
Oh,
can you believe
wow.
that?
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Because I saw the bag, I was like, it's,
Wow, that
is
is
it
awesome.
playing?
That's awesome.
How do we know if anyone is on? I don't see the chat.
It was,
How do I know if people are on already?
I thought the picture of the one else was.
Oh, never mind. Let's do the mic. All right. So I'll put this here.
Maybe closer to the end, so they just drop it a minute.
Okay, Rachel,
Uh-huh.
where do you work? Which company?
I know it's a lot going on.
I know.
But we were just on the phone with you yesterday.
Oh!
I know it's a lot
Yo,
going on.
I gotta tell you, yeah, I'm like,
You know what? I texted you this morning. I don't know if you saw.
I'm sorry, it's been crazy.
I was like, go ahead, but no names.
No, okay,
Because I was
thank
still
you.
on my phone.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say anything.
Yeah.
I just went through the same thing.
Can I'm calling all this. I was calling them. I was like, is this how you guys are these your people?
What?
They're not watching.
Nobody wants. Oh yeah.
No.
yeah.
Is there a restroom?
Right here.
Thank you.
So after each person comes, I need to wipe down the door. Infection control is coming back. All right. It's working. Hello. If anyone is already on the live stream and you have my cell phone number, please text me to confirm that you hear me well and you see me well, please. There's 6 people? Oh, okay. Can you see if they're texting or saying anything?
There's no name. It's just one 64 Fifth Avenue. It's like a house on the corner.
Does it say who? Thank you. When you asked me, do I need any help? I lied. I should have said yes. I'm sorry. I didn't think, I thought I would have plenty of time. Oh, so the video is delayed. The video is not, it doesn't go exactly the same time. 7 are watching now. Give us about 7 minutes to get started. Those online, 2229. Again, 832-372-2229. All right. Did you like mop or something? My shoe is all slidey. Like I'm gonna fall. All right.
Is this a family church?
It's a brand new church.
Yeah, because I was from down the street. I'm like,
If you need
you know what I was thinking when when you said church? I immediately thought of Christ Church.
a
up the
big
street.
church. No,
Yeah,
this is
and then
brand
like,
new.
oh.
We're looking for members.
Ah.
Reason why
What
I'm
is
doing
it? Is it
it's Pentecostal.
is it like specifically like a? Because I've been to a lot of
What?
like Nigerian churches
No,
or
it's
whatever.
not.
No, it's just
No, it's not
Pentecostal.
Nigerian.
It's not. It's just a
You know, they're
Pentecostal church.
reading in your Bible. I'm like, I don't.
No.
Okay.
It's been. So I'm doing this to raise money for them because they're
Okay.
very new.
Yeah.
You need
I'm
members
from the area,
to
man.
keep to pay the rent.
Yeah.
And
that's
so
very
it's brand
expensive.
new. So if you know anyone in the area that needs a church, please send them over here, please. Thank you.
Bloomfield Avenue is not cheap.
I know this place rent is not cheap at all.
Not cheap.
So that's the real purpose. Everything I do is for 2 things. We'll get into that. All right, 5 minutes and we go live. I need to confirm that everybody received the updated slides. There were slides I sent yesterday, and I updated it this morning to add a couple of more things. And that's gonna be the basic outline of what we're gonna be following. So please pull up the updated slides from this morning. Yeah.
Oh, there is? Okay.
There's Wi-Fi in this room. Okay.
Password is
Which one?
nobody guessed.
Guess what? Where's the power guest? Where's power?
Then the password is the power center.
There are people watching. Yes. Keep on coming.
POWER. The P is apps. Then 2, 3. Power center.
I know there are a couple of people on the West Coast, and it's like 6 a.m. right now. Thank you so much for waking up early to join us. Those on the Central, I know it's early right now, but thank you for waking up to join us. As the saying goes, the early bird gets the big worm.
Power center 2, 3.
So where are you staying, Kendra?
I stayed at a Marriott.
Down here, close to
It
here?
was like 20 minutes away.
Guys, I'm gonna put Kendra on the spot. But someone flew all the way from Atlanta to come here live. So I don't want to hear any excuses of anybody online.
No, big up.
Yeah. All right.
So I'm leaving right after my flight at 2:30.
Okay, you need a ride? How did
No,
you
I
rent?
rented
You
a
rented?
car.
Okay, all right, cool. See? That's how bad you gotta want it. You gotta want it. You gotta want it. You gotta want that success. Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much.
Yes.
I wasn't able to get on.
Oh, you weren't?
It's still saying verifying.
Mine says connecting.
What? Yours?
Test it out.
I get somebody.
Yeah, I'm on.
Okay. You're on? Okay. Can you pull up the slides?
Yeah, let me just put on the
Oh, there's a delay. Oh, right. Dude. Oh, good morning. How are you? Good to see you. For your own protection and the protection of everybody else. All right. Thank you for coming. Have a seat wherever is comfortable. We're going to introduce each other in a minute. So don't feel bad that there's only going to be around 5 or 6 of us live. Most people are on live stream, and it's actually better to be here in person because you get to ask all the questions you, and this is like a private, you can ask all the questions you want. You get priority on everything. Those online have to type it in, and someone has to call it out before I can get to it. So, okay, so it's working?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I downloaded it.
All right. I'm glad there's a delay in the live stream. Thank you guys for coming despite the coronavirus scare. I really appreciate you coming. We're gonna take precautions. Everyone. All right. So it's almost 9 o'clock. So let's just take a few minutes to introduce each other. And I want to know what you guys want to get out of this boot camp because I want to make sure I give you what you came for. All right. So is the chat function working for the live stream? We're turning it on.
You know, we made food on there. I think I know the problem. We made it private.
Oh, it was unlisted.
Yeah, it's on this stage.
You want to make it public for a little bit, and then
Make it public. That does not mean everybody will see it.
Hmm?
Yeah, but
we can make it public. It's just, I don't know. After we're done, we'll make it unlisted. Oh, we can. Huh? Oh yeah. Oh, we have coffee and drinks in there and donuts, and the restroom is over there. All right. Thank you. Huh? Yeah, I may need it. All right. Huh? We can't get that to work? Okay, I'll just use this. It's a fun name. Yeah. All right, we have 50 people watching, so I think we have a quorum. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us at this live stream today. Before I get started, I'm gonna introduce myself, tell you a little bit about myself, then we'll go around and do introductions to the people here who are live. As soon as we can set up the live chat, we'll also get you guys to live chat and tell us about yourselves, okay? All right, my name is Ike Agba. I've been in the pharmaceutical industry now for 11 years. I'm an internal medicine physician by training. I practiced for about 4 years, seeing patients as a hospitalist before I transitioned into the pharmaceutical industry. In the 11 years I've been in the industry, I think I've held more jobs than anybody else in those 11 years. And it was partially intentional and partially not by choice, especially my last job switch. But my goal here is to teach you everything I've learned in my 15-year career, things that you don't learn in school, things that my parents and probably your parents never taught you that I had to learn the hard way, either through experience, either through mentors, coaches, my virtual mentors. I watch a lot of YouTube videos on successful people I want to model my life around. So thank you all for joining us. I'm very, very grateful and flattered that all of you will donate to this cause. I'm not making a dime from this. I'm donating my time. But part of the reason I'm willing to do this for free, but I find that when you do things for free, people value it less. You got to have some stake in the game. Like, if a lot of you didn't pay your $50 with this coronavirus, you may have decided to stay home or not go through what you have to go through to join. So that's why partially why I charge $50 for this. I promise you, this is going to be worth way more than $50. But I wanted to keep it reasonable to get the most amount of people to benefit from it. And also the money, every dime that's being raised is going to this church that is hosting us today. And the other half is going to an orphanage in Nigeria. Once they get the money, I'm going to post pictures so you see directly where your money is going. So your money is not going to my pocket. I am not doing this for money, okay? I'm just doing this to help. All right, so while we're here, I'm trying to teach you guys some tricks to accelerate your career, number one. Or two, if you've been struggling to get into the industry, I'm trying to give you some tricks to accelerate that process of whatever barriers that you're going through, okay? So that's why we're here. So the outline today, I'm sorry you can't see it online, but first we're gonna go through, I gave you a little bit about myself. Then the next thing, give me 1 second, let me see. 1, 2, I lost my train of thought. All right. The next thing I want to say is how to discover your why, your vision. Because before you can do anything, you have to have a vision. You have to have a why you're doing it. The next thing is, oops, she needs help. All right. Sorry. The next thing we're gonna go over the mindset, because I think part of career development is all about the mindset. It's not all about your mindset, but the majority of what it takes to get to where you need to get to is your mindset. Thank you so much. I need my markers. Okay, great. Thank you. Do you have some tissue? I don't need that anymore. I can just write on that. Okay. Do you have some tissue to give her? Okay. So, Here you go. Yeah, you can call it as needed. All right. Let's see. Okay, so let's get back to our agenda here. All right, so let's just get started, okay? So first thing, and I know I'm going to spend maybe about an hour on mindset because I think it's very important. It's like that saying, you can teach a man, you can give a man or woman a fish, or you can teach them to fish for a lot. If you teach them to fish, they can fish for life. So, okay, I thought he was coming here. So I want to give you some general concepts that will help you as you navigate your career. So we're going to go to the first slide, which is titled Game Theory, or the Game of Business, okay? All right. So there's a lot of people who have studied success, who studied business. There's this guy, his name is Simon Sinek. I put the link to his YouTube video below. I highly encourage you guys to go watch this video. It's very, very instructive. But the game of business, or the corporate world, is divided. It's what we call an infinite game. Okay, but people like to play the corporate game as if it was a finite game. Let me give you an example of a finite game. A finite game is something like the NBA. There are rules. The rules don't change during the game. The rules are always the same. The players, when you're playing the game, you know who's playing for this team, who's playing for that team. You don't all of a sudden in the middle of the game grab a player from a different team and bring them in. The objective, for example, in the NBA, the objective is for you to score more points. Whoever scores more points wins the game. The objective doesn't change in the middle of the game. Like the middle of after, I think an NBA game lasts 90 minutes. Does anybody know? Okay. You don't all of a sudden go from a 90-minute game to a 120-minute game. Okay. Sorry to interrupt. I don't want to distract. If you don't mind. So I know. Because of the whole scare, I don't want to. Sorry, I don't want to make you uncomfortable or anything. But if you don't mind, like sitting like a different one. No, just there's no way for us to know if what you have is just a common cold, or so. If you don't mind, just don't want to make you uncomfortable or anybody else uncomfortable. And yeah, sure. Thank you so much. Me, I'm okay. Okay, no, bro, you know how it is. Like none of us know you. This is our first time meeting you. There's no way for us to know. So I'm okay. I just don't want anyone. I'm sorry. I hope you're not offended. But this is what's gonna happen until this whole. Me, I don't care.
Well, I think you're a little more educated being healthcare workers, but
Okay.
I understand.
I'm telling you, for me, it's actually from my wife is pregnant. Me, I'm here. I'm talking to you. I just want to make everyone comfortable. Okay. All right. All right. So sorry, I don't want to offend you at all. I'm just being cautious, until this. So getting back to what I was saying about the game theory, and this with infinite games, and I'll tie this back to the pharma industry just so you get what I'm saying. The objective with finite game is winning the game. The objective in an infinite game is outlasting your competition or survival. Okay. In a finite game, your competition is everybody who's playing the game with you or your opponents. But an infinite game, your competition is your old self. You always want to be better than how you were before. Like, yes, today I want to be smarter than I was yesterday, so on and so forth. Your focus in a finite game is competitors. In an infinite game is your customers, whoever you're serving, or being innovative. Like companies that play the finite game, They're all about beating the competition. I'll give you an example. Let's say Apple versus Microsoft back in the day. Apple, when Steve Jobs was the leader, their whole goal was to make the best product that they can. While Microsoft was in the game of trying to beat out the whole competition in the space. Playing the finite game may work temporarily, but in the long run, being an infinite game player will carry you through. How can you be defeated if you're playing a finite game? There are different ways. If an opponent plays, say you're playing basketball, an opponent outscores you, they're beating you. In an infinite game, the only way that you can lose is if you quit, if you give up by losing your will, or if you run out of resources. I'm sorry, I don't think that's clear in the handout, but it says running out of resources. So why am I explaining all this? Okay, when you're in the pharmaceutical industry, try your best not to worry about other people. The only time I study other people is to figure out how I can make myself better. So no one in this room is your competition. We're all here to get ourselves better. And that's why I freely give away the information that I get, because I don't feel anybody is my competition. So why hoard the information? So if you live your life with that mentality, you will never lose. I'll give you another concrete example. Vietnam, back in the day, there was a Vietnamese war. Vietnam and America were fighting. In a way, Vietnam won the war because, America left, okay? Vietnam was fighting for survival. As I told you, if you're playing an infinite game, you're fighting for survival. But the US were fighting to defeat them. And the US was a superior army, had all the resources, but these people were fighting for their survival to live. And that's why, even though they were much more inferior army, they were able to win that war. Like they did. When you're in an infinite game, you're very resourceful. You do anything it does to survive. So take that same mentality in your career. You have to be creative. Don't have a fixed mindset. Always think about growing, trying to be better than you were before, not necessarily worrying about your competition or whoever else is out there working with you. You can study them to learn from them, but in terms of making yourself, you study them to make yourself better. You study them to grow. So people who come into pharma with playing the finite game, they're not as successful as those who play the infinite game, okay? And why do I say finite game? The pharma game is an infinite game. I'll give you an example. I've been in the diabetes industry. My career has been 11 years, and I've been doing diabetes for most of those 11 years. But these days, diabetes is no longer in vogue, okay? Everyone is moving into oncology. Everyone is moving into rare disease. Everyone is moving into immunology or neurology. Okay, diabetes is not so sexy anymore. When I first joined, diabetes and cardiovascular was the hottest thing in the industry. So if I'm playing a finite game and I'm stubborn about staying in diabetes, I am going to go, I'm not going to survive. But if I focus on surviving, focus on growing, I might be willing to switch to another therapeutic area, or switch to an adjacent therapeutic area, which is what I'm doing now, because my goal is to survive. I have a wife at home I have to feed. I have a kid. My wife is 9 months pregnant as of yesterday. The baby's due anytime. So in order for me to survive, I have to be a little bit flexible and maybe switch therapeutic area, because my focus is not. My focus is growth and survival, not necessarily diabetes per se. So I hope you guys can understand that concept. So before we move further, I want to get to know you guys. so that I can make sure I'm bringing you value. So we'll start with you. All right. Come on. Tell us your name, where you work, and what you want to get out of it, if you don't mind. Sorry. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry. Sorry. Okay. No, I'm sorry.
Oh, so my name is Selma. I work at Merck
The
and I have an
open, okay. Okay, all right, thank you. Open mind. So Dalhan, she works at Merck. What do you do at Merck? Medinfo? Okay. Are you trying to stay in Medinfo or switch careers, switch to something else?
right now, work for my life. And my life changes,
Then you switch. Okay. All right. So you're open-minded. She's here to get any information she can. Okay. Your turn.
Good morning. My name is Rachel. I currently work for CRO. I'm anxiously trying to break into, go back into pharma. I used to work in pharma before,
Okay.
but an entry level role, and we all know that's very hard to grow. So I made the decision to go out and grow, and then I'm trying to get back in.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
So which pharma did you work for before?
I worked for Legacy Activists,
Okay.
which is now Allergan,
Uh,
and Aurobindo. Aurobindo.
Aurobindo.
It's an Indian pharmaceutical.
Okay. And which CRO are you working for now?
It's very small. No one knows.
Oh, just say the name. You never know.
CCSA.
CCSA. Okay. So you're trying to transition from the CRO to big pharma, I'm assuming? Okay, go ahead.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kendra, and I previously worked for Sanofi. I'm on a break right now, so just in the process of getting all the gems that I know I will drop today, as I try to figure out my next steps.
Okay. And in case you didn't hear before, Kendra flew all the way from Atlanta to be here live to learn. I'm very flattered. And I met her while I worked at Sanofi before I was laid off. And I've been mentoring her since then. And I'm very proud to see how much she's progressed. Okay. So let's start with, Rachel's topic. So, let's talk about how to break in to the end. We went over a little bit about mindset. I skipped the why. I'll come back to the why. Let's talk about how to break in. I'll tell you my story, and then we'll get into more detail. So, since I was a kid, I grew up in Nigeria. I'm originally Nigerian. I lived in Nigeria since when I was 5 to 14. What made me decide to become a doctor is there were several of my classmates had sickle cell disease. I don't know if you guys have ever met any patients with sickle cell. Their eyes turn yellow a lot. That's from jaundice. As a kid, I didn't know why. And I noticed they always went to the hospital. They always went to the hospital. And I noticed a couple of them actually passed away. And as a kid, that left a big impression on me. And I told myself I want to become, when I was a kid, I used to tell my parents, I want to be a scientist so I can find a cure for sickle cell. So that was my original passion. That's what I wanted to do. I had no idea. Like, I asked my teacher, who finds cures for diseases? And they told me it was a scientist. So I always told everybody, I want to be a scientist because I want to find a cure for sickle cell. I'm still working towards that goal, but So fast forward years later, if any of you have grown up in an African household, all your parents want you to be either a doctor, a lawyer, engineer, I forget the pharmacist, or an accountant, one of those big Yeah, right. Tell me about your household. What options do you have? That's it? You see, so we all have similar backgrounds here. So, oh yeah, that's a good idea. Okay, you wipe it down, please. Yeah, let me give you something to wipe.
I think I have it and wipe it down. I'm wiping since.
Huh? I'm gonna wipe it down, please.
I'll do it.
Yeah. So it's just precaution. The way I used to practice in the hospital and I did infection control. The best way to control against an infection is to assume everyone has it and treat it that way. So I don't want to offend anyone. I'm just trying to protect us. Okay. Okay, I'll stop. All right. So I lost my train of thought. What was I talking about? Oh, the African household. Okay. So my parents noticed I like sciences. I always did good at math and sciences. So they steered me from being a scientist to a doctor. And I did not really know what it meant to be a doctor, but I figured I like sciences, I like math, I do good in science, math. I hated literature, I hated writing. So I said, okay, and I saw that doctors were successful, made good money, they had a lot of respect, and they were helping people. So I said, okay, I can be a doctor, and when I become a doctor, I can take care of patients who have sickle cell. So fast forward many years, I came to the U.S., I finished my residency in Houston, Baylor College of Medicine, and I became a hospitalist at the Texas Medical Center. And there's a hospital I worked at, Ben Taub. It's the third busiest emergency room in the country. And we had a significant amount of patients who had sickle cell. And they all happened to be African American or Black. And I saw how badly they were treated in the hospital. They always called the lingerers. No doctors were trying to take care of these patients because they felt they were drug seekers. So I made it my passion to put all these patients on my service. So I told my partners, if you ever get someone with sickle cell, I know you guys don't like taking care of them, just send them to me, I'll take care of them. And so fast forward many years, I was able to achieve my passion of taking care of sickle cell patients, not necessarily finding a cure, but taking care of patients. So while I was practicing for 4 years, I dealt with, as an internist, internal medicine, you deal with a lot of patients with chronic diseases like diabetes, high blood pressure, so on and so forth. And I found myself, I felt like I was just putting Band-Aids over wounds rather than making a big difference in health. Like someone comes in with high blood pressure, I prescribe them medicine, send them out. I was too busy to do thorough counseling, meaning working on their mind. All I was doing was just medicating. Some of these patients did not prescribe to they're not subscribed to their prescriptions. And so that was one thing that frustrated me. And then I also started seeing a transition in healthcare where we started getting pressure to discharge patients a lot quicker, even though they're not completely well. Then electronic medical records came in. Back then, I used to write our notes in handwritten, and I was a lot faster doing that than typing on the screen, like trying to do the history on a computer. So all these things frustrated me. So I said there's got to be a better way to make a living and help while helping people. So I thought about the pharmaceutical industry. I wasn't sure and I'm gonna come to the point of this story. I wasn't sure what pharmaceutical industry was all about, but I said I want to try it out just to learn. And if I don't like it, I can go back to seeing patients. So that's how I transitioned into pharma. I ended up loving it, and I've been doing it for the last 11 years. And I would never ever go back to clinical practice. Never say never, but that's how much I love what I do. Okay. So the point of the story, and again, one thing you learn about me, one thing I've learned: never tell a story without a point, and never make a point without telling a story. That's something I learned about communication that you guys need to also learn. Never tell a story without a point, and never make a point without a story. Okay, so why am I telling you this story? One, my transition into pharma industry grew out of frustration of what I was doing, okay, prior to that. So whenever you don't feel happy about what you're currently doing, if you feel like you could be making more money, or if you feel like you could be learning more, if you feel like you can be given more, or if you feel like you don't like your boss, don't just sit there and tolerate it, because it's going to make your life miserable. I mean, you can tolerate it if the pros outweigh the cons. But whenever the cons outweigh the pros, or it starts to affect your mental health, your physical health, your family health, you have to be willing to change. You have to be willing to try something different. All of you can go look at my LinkedIn profile. In 11 years, I've worked at I started off with a CRO like Rachel, and that's why I brought up the story. Then I worked for a small biotech, Lexicon, and then I moved to a large pharma and worked as a medical affairs director. And then I moved to Sanofi as a U.S. medical affairs lead. And I just started on Monday at Bayer as an executive medical affairs director. I would have, sorry. So I would have stayed at PPD till now if I was happy, if I was fulfilled, if I was growing, if I was learning. Each career move I made was because out of frustration for the last step. Okay, and you may say, "Man, you're not easy to please. You switched four companies in 11 years. Most people stay in one company for 11 years." Okay, this leads to my first major lesson. Okay, there are two paths in the industry. Okay, if you want to grow, accelerate, you either stay in one company and climb the ladder, or you switch companies every 4 or 5 years, and gain more skills, learn more skills until you get to where you are. I would never recommend someone staying in the same company, doing the same thing for 11 years. If you're doing that, you're really, really hurting yourself. I'm not saying that you shouldn't be loyal to a company, absolutely not. But if you're giving your 100% to a company, if you're working harder than everybody else, if you're treating everybody well, if you're really valuable to the company, you should be promoted or switched around every 3 to 4 years. Everybody knows this. Like, if you stay in the same position, okay, I can understand if you're in the same position for 3 or 4 years, but you're not the best, or you're not doing your best, or things like that. Then that's okay. You shouldn't try to get promoted just to get promoted, because you're gonna hit a point in your career elevation where you're gonna bite more than you can chew. So the way I approach my daily work, I try to learn as much as I can and give as much as I can and be the best that I can. And I give my all. And if after, let's say 4 years is the max, I'll stay in the role, giving my 100%. And not getting promoted. So that's my rule of thumb. I learned that from my mother. She said, do your best in every job. Try to be the best. Our parents always taught us the finite mentality instead of the infinite mentality. And that's the gift I credit to my parents for teaching me to always be the best. Like, when I was in school, if I didn't have straight A's, or if I didn't have the highest score SAT or whatever, I wasn't satisfied because my parents pushed me. But what I've evolved now, as I've been deeper in my career, to have an infinite mindset, and that's the way I'm going to train my kids. I will train them to do their best. I'm not necessarily beat everybody. I'm telling them to do their best. I'm teaching them, if you do your best, if you're truly honest with yourself and you do your best, you're going to be better than everyone, because most people don't do their best. You know what I mean? And so that's what my focus is in my career. So I'll tell you a little bit about each of my transitions, what prompted me to go to the next step, and then I'll tell you some tips on what I did to break into the industry. So I loved my first job, which was in a CRO, just like you, Rachel. The great thing about working at a CRO is you get to work for many different companies, big pharma, small pharma. You see the same process over and over again, and you learn tricks from different companies. You see what works, what doesn't work, and you internalize it. So I learned so much. I spent my first year and a half in the industry for a CRO, and during that time, That's when they were developing all the new diabetes treatments. This was around 2009. All the big drugs that are in diabetes and cardiovascular, PCSK9. I did some of the phase 1 trials for PCSK9. I did the phase 1 trials for every major class of diabetes drug. SGLT2s, DPP4s, I did all the phase 1 trials. So I got to learn so much about many different therapeutic areas. And just because of timing, I happened to see a lot of diabetes and cardiovascular trials, and that's how I landed in diabetes and cardiovascular. And that's another lesson. We may have a goal to do a certain thing, but due to what's the word, serendipity, you may end up doing something else. Okay, so when you're planning your career, you always want to have a vision or a goal of what you want to do. And I'm not here, strongly encouraging you guys, don't let anyone convince you not to get to your goal or your vision. Whatever vision or goal that you set for yourself, don't let anybody talk you out of it. But one thing people don't tell you is to be flexible about how you get there, okay? So let's get into what my goals are. My goal, I'll give you the concrete and the non-concrete goal. My passion in life, I've always loved to teach. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm willing to do this for free. So every career I've ever done has involved teaching in some way. If it doesn't involve teaching, I voluntarily teach people. Like, you can ask Kendra, when I joined Sanofi, I reached out to all the MSLs of our persuasion and culture. We went at ADA, we were at our biggest congress. That's where all of us were. So I called them all together. We went out to dinner, and I said, I'm here, I'm new. Anything I can do to help you guys, I'm here. Call me anytime. And I'm extending the same thing to you guys. For you guys, taking your hard-earned money, $50 to donate to this cause, coming here super early in the morning on Saturday, my gratitude to you is, you're gonna have my phone number after this. You guys can call me anytime if you need any help, any advice, or anything. I'm only extending that to those who signed up for this first one, okay? Because my time is limited, I can't do this for everyone. So getting back to my story, you always want to be stubborn on your goals. Stubborn on your goals, but flexible on how you get there, okay? So getting back to my passion, live chat is on, okay, good. The live chat is on. If anyone has any questions, please type it in the live chat. And that way we can address them if you need to interrupt. Okay, let me just double check. Okay, we're 30 minutes in. Okay, good.
Know that your goals change. Yours was to cure sickle cell.
Yes.
And as your life changes,
Mhm.
your goals change.
Absolutely.
It's okay.
Yes, thank you. Daha, right? Daha. Sorry, Daha, okay. Daha made an excellent point, and this is going to be a discussion. I'm going to give you my gems that I learned, but I want you guys to chime in. If you disagree with me, if you have something to add, please join. She mentioned a great point. Can you say that again one more time, please?
So your goals will change as your life changes.
Yes.
Just be flexible.
Yes. So she says, your goals will change as your life changes. Be flexible. And she's absolutely right. Have you guys ever noticed the animals that survive the most are the ones that are most willing to change? Do you understand? It's not the strongest, it's not the fastest, it's not the, it's the ones that are most willing to change. I'm going to put Kendra on the spot. Kendra is passionate about diabetes. She is super, super passionate about diabetes. She used to be in practice taking care of diabetes patients. She came to Sanofi and she was taking care of diabetes. So when the restructuring happened in the company, her and I talked. And I asked her, what are you gonna do? She said, I'm going back to practice, screw this, this MSL thing, it's so much instability, whatever. I was very comfortable when I was in practice. I didn't have to worry about job stability, and I want to stay in diabetes. I don't, things like that. But as we talked, she became her ideas changed. Now she's more willing to stay as an MSL. I don't know if you want me. I'm not going to go into specifics, but now she has multiple offers from multiple different companies, and a lot of them are not diabetes related. And now I think she's more willing to maybe switch to that. Is that accurate to say? So she, and that's from being flexible, okay? And she's only been an MSL for a year and a half. And I was afraid for her because I was like, I know how hard it is to be an MSL, to get into an MSL. To me, the MSL is the best job in the industry. The only problem with being an MSL, there's not a huge career ladder. So if your goal is to have good family life balance, it's a great job to have, and you can do that for the rest of your life. For me, my goals are a little bit different. I'm a primary provider in my family. I want to grow. So I could have been happy being an MSL for the rest of my life if I didn't have to worry about providing or things like that. So that's why I decided to progress. But getting back to my story, she's flexible, okay? And I'm pretty sure all of you are the same way. Hello, welcome. Oops, sorry. We're making everyone white for your protection and everybody's protection. Okay. Just wipe your hands. It's okay. It's okay. We're just, it's not. We're just protecting each other, with the stuff going on. All right. So we just had someone walking. Give me your name. I should know. I'm sorry, but Nicola. Bukola.
Yes.
Okay. Spell it.
Bukola.
Oh, Bukola. Now I remember. Who do you work for? What do you do? Yeah. You missed all the introductions. Yeah.
Do I stand?
Yeah.
I currently work for Perrigo, which is a generics company.
Okay.
I do clinical research. What else would you like to know?
And what's your goal here? What do you want to get out of this boot camp?
Okay, so my goal in life is is to learn how to network. I think I struggle with that. I don't know how to talk to people, like especially in a professional setting.
Okay.
So that's one of my goals.
Okay.
I used to work in recruiting.
Yeah.
So I'm not really big on the recruiting side.
Okay.
I don't know too much about that. And just anything, basically, you can teach me.
Okay, great. Thank you. Welcome. Bukola. That's Dalha. She's from Merck, Medinfo, Rachel. Oh, you guys know each other. Okay, that's Kendra. We used to work together at Sanofi. She flew here from Atlanta. I'm going to keep blowing her up like that. She's going to get tired. And I'm going to keep bragging on her, too. So we were talking about, and I'm your host. Hopefully you Googled me before you threw your money away. No. So I'm here to share. So we're getting back to, we're talking about vision and your goals. Dalha brought up a great point. I was saying that always be stubborn on your goals, once you decide on what it is, but be flexible on how to get there. And Dalha brought up a great point. As you grow, your goals may change. Be flexible about changing those goals, okay? So those are the big points, okay? So let's talk about goal setting and vision. Again, we're doing a lot of mindset stuff for the first hour. I'll get into details in hour 2 and hour 3. By the way, we have coffee, water, and donuts in the back. Okay.
Thank you.
At any time. So I'm gonna skip. I wish I had numbers on these slides. There is a slide towards the middle. It's a quote by Damon Dash. You guys are thinking, why Damon Dash? How many of you know who Damon Dash is? Do you guys know? Do you know Damon Dash? You heard? Okay, so Damon Dash used to be the CEO of Rockefeller. He was Jay-Z's partner. So he taught Jay-Z business, and now Jay-Z outshined him. I like to watch a lot of his videos. He has a nasty personality, but he drops a lot of gems. If he fixed his personality, with the knowledge and drive that he has, he will make Jay-Z look like nothing because he taught Jay-Z pretty much everything Jay-Z knows about business. But I still study him because I feel like I can learn from anybody, okay? As much as I'm here to teach, I'm also here to learn. And Daha just dropped a nice gem that I'm gonna add next time that I'm talking. So that's another reason why I'm part of YBP. That's another reason why I'm part of, what's the other group? Not the sister group to YBP. You guys don't know about it? Doses of Melanin? You guys aren't part of that? Okay. Well, Doses of Melanin is kind of like YBP, but it's targeted more towards pharmacists who are still in school, trying to break into the industry, or even trying to do residency. So see if you guys can join that group. It's pretty similar. A lot of the people who are on both groups are the same. But I'm a physician. I have no business being in a pharmacy, what do you call those things? Pharmacy group or group chat or whatever. But I feel like I can learn. I can learn from anybody. Like I can learn from any. That's something. What separates me from most people is that I'm humble enough to know that I don't know it all, and I can learn from everybody. And that's another big gem that I want to drop to you guys. I posted something about if you guys don't have me on LinkedIn, please send me a LinkedIn request. We need to be linked up because I like to post a lot of stuff that's I think helps. So go back and look at my post about teachability index. We're switching topics now. Teachability index. That to me is the secret to being successful. Well, there are many secrets, but I'm spilling it all. Your teachability index is how well you're willing to change and how much you're willing to learn. Okay? And that's why I've been very successful. Clearly, by the fact that I've had 4 jobs in 11 years, means I'm willing to change. And I'm telling you, coming to Sanofi was the hardest professional thing that I ever did. I was at Merck. I had the sweetest job ever as an MSL there. I worked from home. I had a company car. I set my own schedule. I was in Texas and Houston, which I love. I love Houston, Texas till I die. If I can get back to Texas, I would go back in a heartbeat, okay? But why did I switch from Merck to Sanofi? Okay. Easy answer. They dropped the bag. Just kidding. You guys didn't get the joke. You guys didn't get the joke. No. They were first of all, I went from being an MSL to be the U.S. Medical Affairs lead, which is like 2 levels up, or maybe 3 levels up. MSL in most companies, you're a manager or associate director. Some companies call them directors, but when it comes to responsibilities, you're really not doing the job as a director, even if it's called a director. But U.S. Medical Affairs lead, some companies a senior director, some companies it was an executive director role. At Sanofi, it was a senior director role. So I went from being essentially a manager to a senior director role. I went from managing a region, actually not even a region, couple of towns, Houston. I used to have Austin and San Antonio. At first it was just Houston, and I asked to pick up Austin and San Antonio to managing the whole country. And we'll get to that story too, but I have a story for everything. So not only was I increasing responsibilities, which I knew I would learn from, every career move I do is all about, can I learn more and can I grow? Okay, those are my priorities. So and I never ever compromise on that. That's my goal. Am I learning? Am I growing? Money, for sure, I have to, I like to get paid more, but if I'm learning and I'm growing, I'm willing to take the same amount of money, but I'm never ever willing to take less money for a job. I don't care what it is, okay? And that's just me. Everybody's different. All of you have to come up with your own goal. What works for you, what works for your life. Remember we talked about the finite and the infinite game? Infinite players are driven by their vision, their goal. finite players are driven by the game. They just want to win the game. For me, I'm all about my vision. Everything else that happens in between is just part of that journey. Okay, so I left from. Yeah, go ahead.
So I should tell your story.
Yeah.
If you can.
Yes, please.
Incorporate in what networking, what highlights did you do to get.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to save that for the second part, but I think you're right. But I might as well just talk about it as we go. Okay. So Daha made a request, which is great. She told me when I'm telling my story about my different career moves, explain to you guys what networking I did. What else did you say?
Like what highlights? You know how you
What highlights? Okay. All right. This is a great part. We're gonna dig in. That goes into it's networking, branding, breaking into another job. So when I went from Lexicon to Merck. At Lexicon, I was a medical director for clinical development. I led drug development for a new diabetes drug. I designed phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 trials, both in the US and in Europe. So it was a big job, but it's for a small company. But I did it for 3 years. I learned working for a small company or working for a CRO is like dog years. 1 year in a small company is like 7 years in a big company. So I highly recommend people to start their careers if you don't have a choice. If you can get into big pharma right away, great. But if you can't, try a CRO, try a small company, because you learn so much than you do in big companies. There are pros and cons to big and small, and I can get into that. So when I saw the listing for the Merck job, it was advertised as a regional medical affairs director. So I thought this was like a medical director role like I had before in a small company, but now it's a big company, but you can work it from home. All right. So I was like, this is perfect. I get to stay in Texas. I'm still a medical director. I'm not being demoted, but I'm not being demoted, but now I work for Merck. Merck, you know about Merck. Yeah, Merck is has a great reputation and a great name. When I went to the interview, I found out, even though it's called a regional medical affairs director, and again, nonetheless, companies can call titles whatever they want. It's all about your responsibilities or what you're doing. I found out it was an MSO role. I'm not trying to speak down on an MSO role. Like I told you guys, to me, that's the best job I ever had in the industry. But for someone who's already a medical director, going to an MSL, to most people, that's a step down in your career, which goes back to what I was trying to tell you before. While I was a medical director, as I got closer and closer to following my drug, I started doing more medical affairs activities. I put together an ad board in the US, an ad board in Europe. What do you call it? I'm losing my train of thought. Okay, I also managed KOLs, even though I was doing drug development, and that's where my networking started in the job. So because I invited these people to my ad boards, I got to know them. These were the top diabetes KOLs, and all of them happened to be in Texas. If you guys know Ralph DeFranzo, he's probably the biggest KOL. He was in Texas. He was one of my consultants when I worked at Lexicon. So I did ad boards, and I started doing more medical affairs activities, even though I was in clinical development. And why did I do that? Because my boss came from medical affairs, and he became a chief medical officer for my small company. And he told me that he noticed my personality, that I'll be great at medical affairs. So I asked him, what is this medical affairs about? And he told me a little bit. So I was like, I want to try this. Sounds familiar? If you don't know, just gain exposure. That's how you'll know for sure if you like something or not. You never really know by the description. You never really know by reading about it. You know by actually doing it. And we'll get back to that concept of exposure and experience. Because everyone focuses on education, but your true learning comes from exposure and experience. So as soon as I realized this is an area of interest, and another reason why I wanted to do medical affairs is when I worked in CRO, all I did was phase 1 trials. Then I went into drug development. I did phase 1 through phase 3 trials. And I heard that med affairs works on drugs that are already approved. So my goal was to master the whole pharmaceutical value chain. I want to be able to, because my ultimate goal, I never told you guys, my ultimate professional goal is to be a chief medical officer or to be a vice president of medical affairs, either or. I'm flexible. But to be able to do that and be good at it, I need to know how to do everything. So my goal is always to learn every piece of medical affairs. Like every job I go to, that's my trick, just to tell you. I try to know my role very well, and everybody that I interact with, like MedInfo, I'll do lunch with you, teach me about MedInfo. What do you do? How does that relate to what I do? You know, R&D, so on. So that's one thing I want to advise you guys. You gotta be a master of your craft. And this ties into interviews. If you're a master of your craft, and if you know everything that surrounds your job, it makes you interview better, which we'll get into later. It makes you get paid more. Like, don't get it twisted. I can tell you everything on how to negotiate left and right on money. If people don't see you as an expert, you're not gonna get as paid as much as someone who's an expert. Like, I'll give you an example. In the NBA, who's the highest paid player in the NBA? I don't even know. I keep bringing up NBA. I don't know why. That's not even my favorite sport. LeBron James. Like, the reason why he gets paid more, as much as he does, or Michael Jordan, everyone knows Michael Jordan, they're the best. They're really good at playing basketball. And that's why people give them, they'll drop a bag on them or give them endorsement deals and things like that. So there is no real secret recipe on how to negotiate. The real secret is being a master of your craft. And the way to be a master of your craft is be willing to learn and be intentional and active about learning. Don't just be a passive learner. You gotta, like all of you here already on the top, I already know you're top 20 percenters. I can bet my money on it that you guys are top 20 in your field because you're willing to pay $50 to come see me on a Saturday morning. That means you already got it. But what I'm trying to do is give you information to take you from top 20% to top 5%. I want all of us here to be what I call the 5%ers. So I know I'm talking a lot about concepts. I can get into detail with you guys, and the details I will get into, or after this we can talk one-on-one. I can look at your CV and give you more concrete advice. I've done it with Kendra, I've done it with Rachel, and I'm willing to do it with any of you. So getting to your question. So I started putting together ad boards, and meeting KOLs. When I interviewed for Merck, I found out that I'm going to be an MSL. Most people will say, "Oh, this is a step down in your career. I won't take it. Stay and keep doing what you're doing." But me, my ultimate goal is to be a VP of Medical Affairs, a CMO. So if I'm going to be a CMO, I'm going to be managing people in clinical development. I'm going to be managing people in Medical Affairs. I know clinical development now. I've done it for about a few years. I need to learn more medical affairs. I don't care if I have to start from being an MSL or work my way up. So that's why I took the MSL job, okay? The salary, my wife would kill me, but I'll get into numbers because I notice when you talk to people, they never tell you how much they make or how, things like that. And that really helps people. So when I was a medical director, I was making 240 with 15%, 15% bonus. Merck was offering, was it 15%? Okay, it was supposed to be 15% Lexicon, but Lexicon, they didn't have a drug on the market. They weren't making any money, so I wasn't getting 15%. I was probably getting 6 or 7%. But when I went over, actually, I was making 250 at Lexicon with 15% bonus. but um, Merck offered me 250 with 15% bonus. And when I asked people, do you really get your 15%? They were like, yeah. So I figured there would be a slight bump in pay. Plus, the benefits were a lot better. We got stock options. The stock options I got at Lexicon were useless. So it was a little bit of a pay bump going from Lexicon to Merck, but it was huge bump for me career-wise because I went from R&D to being an MSL where I can learn about medical affairs, and I go from working for biotech that no one had heard of to Merck that everybody had heard of, okay? So that was why I made that first transition, okay? And then the reason why I left Lexicon, because I wanted to take that drug all the way to approval. Our strategy at Lexicon was take the drug out to phase 2B, then partner with a big pharma company to pay for phase 3 and get it approved. So I designed all the trials for phase 2B. Phase 2B results look great. So all these companies were coming, trying to buy the drug from us. Merck, Sanofi, all these people came. In the middle of the negotiations, dapagliflozin, which was the competitor drug, I think BMS had it at the time. This was before they sold it to AZ. They published their phase 3 data because they were supposed to be the first to market. And their phase 3 data showed some cancer signals. And in a chronic disease, if your drug shows cancer signals, that kills the drug. So that scared everybody away from our company because it was a drug in the same class. At this time, the company had spent all their money because they were hoping they're going to get big dollars from a big pharma company to keep going. So I knew, if I don't make a move, I'm going to get laid off. So I went back to the CRO I was working for, which was PPD. 2 weeks later, they fired my CEO and they laid off half the company. So I was very fortunate in my time. So that's when I went from the small company Lexicon to back to PPD, which is the company I started with. PPD would never have taken me back if I didn't do really well when I worked with them at first. So you always got to work hard because you never know when you need to go back. And don't burn bridges because you never know when you need to go back. So, but now, yeah, exactly. She said, do hard, said, pay attention to the market. And we'll come back to my Sanofi story and the market. So, you should do this with me. You should come sit over here. Let's do this together. So you always have to be strategic. You got to think ahead. You got to think about what's going on in the market. So as I mentioned to you, I realized that I have an interest in meta affairs. So I was strategic about what my next job would be. Some people may have thought it was a lateral move or a step down, but to me, my goal, I think it would have helped me learn and grow to get to my final goal. So when I went back to PPD, I worked there another year and a half. And that whole year and a half, I was spending trying to figure out how to get into becoming into Med Affairs or MSL. Okay, and that's when the Merck position came up. So I took the Merck job. Now I'm going to answer your question. I spent the first year or two learning the role. Like as an MSL, it's not just about knowing your drug, because I knew the space very well because I had developed a diabetes drug from phase 1 all the way up to phase 3. So my issue wasn't learning about the drugs. My issue was learning about the function, like how does the MSL job fit into the whole piece in the industry? And that's another advice I need to give you guys. Don't just focus on your drugs or your therapeutic area or your function. Always think about the big picture. How does your job fit into keeping the lights on or fit into how the big business operates? When you think like that, when you work, you bring more value to the company because now you know what to focus on. You focus on things that move the bottom line. So always think about the big picture, and that gets back to your point about being strategic, watching the market dynamics. So after I learned the basics about being an MSL, and I feel like I mastered the role because I was very intentional about learning. I would try to learn as much as I can, talk to as many MSLs as I can. And another advice I'd give you about networking, not only did I learn about my job, my company, my role, I met all the other MSLs in Houston or in Texas. And I got to know all the MSLs in Texas. And I'll tell you how that helped me again. Then I was originally only supposed to work in Houston, cover Houston, because most of you know Houston's a very dense territory as an MSL. One of my counterparts who was covering Austin and San Antonio left and went to another company. One of the KOLs I worked with before, Ralph DeFronzo, was working in Austin. Working in San Antonio. I wanted to renew my relationship with him. So I asked, can I take on that territory until you find another MSL to take over the territory, just as a stretch assignment. And during that time, I got to reconnect with Dr. DeFronzo, got to build more, make more relationships in that territory. Another reason why I picked up that territory, there were more well-known diabetes experts in those territories than in Houston. Houston was more known for cardiology. At Merck, I was doing cardiology and diabetes. Houston has a lot of world-renowned cardiologists, but the world-renowned diabetologists tend to be in Dallas or in San Antonio. So I wanted to pick up those territories just to get to meet these guys, to have more impact in my company. I never knew this was going to have an impact in my job, in my professional career. So getting back to what I was telling you, not only did I network with other MSLs in Texas, I networked with all the influential KOLs in Texas, and I was very intentional about it. So one of the MSLs I made friends with was working at Sanofi. She left before we did. I'm blanking on the name.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so friend Benet, she's now my friend. She was an MSL for Sanofi. I was an MSL for Merck. And then the KOL that I picked up, Ralph DeFronzo, was in San Antonio, even though my territory was in Houston. So after I did 3 years at Merck, I knew I had mastered the role. By the way, if you're very intentional about learning, it shouldn't take you any more than 3 or 4 years to master any role. I don't care what role it is. Think about it. You go to college, 4 years, right? You go to medical school or pharmacy school, 4 years. You go to high school, 4 years. So if it's taking you more than 4 years to master any role, you're not working your hardest and you're not being intentional about it. That's why 4 years is kind of my rule of thumb to get promoted. But if I'm really put myself into it, I should get promoted every 2 or 3 years. Okay, but for sure, 4 years. If you're not getting promoted and you're honest with yourself that you're learning everything you're supposed to learn, you're doing everything you're supposed to do, and you're still not getting promoted, it's time to move to another company. If your goal is growth, promotion. Some people, their goal is different. They want to live in a certain city. They want to have a certain lifestyle balance, to be close to their family, things like that. That's okay. But for me, as I told you guys in the beginning, my goal, learning and growth, so that I can ultimately become a CMO. Okay. So getting back to the story, I met Benet through being an MSL. I also met another MSL, Lois. I'm sorry, these are girls that we know in common. They're MSLs. So when the Sanofi opportunity came up, by knowing these people, I can call them and ask them questions. What do I need to know? What drugs do I need to study? Who's the decision maker? Things like that. That's where networking helps. Okay? And then my boss, the lady who became my boss, who hired me to work for Sanofi, as luck would have it, she trained in San Antonio. And her the person who trained her was Dr. Ralph DeFronzo, the guy I told you that I kind of went intentionally picked up the territory so I could get to work with him. I didn't know that through working with him, I was going to get my next job, but that's how networking works. I don't network because I want to get a job from someone, or something. I network for the general reason to learn from people, get to know people, things like that. But it always leads to, it pays dividends somehow. Like, you never know, one day, one of you in here may be in a position to help me out with my next career move, or I may be in a position to hire one of you to beta. So this is why, even though you could have done this live stream at home, a lot of times it's good to come here. So this is networking right here. Before you leave, you should get everybody's number. You should keep in touch with everybody, get to know what they do, and teach them what you do. That's networking. Go ahead.
I just have a quick question.
Yeah.
At any point throughout this whole process, do you have a mentor?
Oh, I've always had mentors. Okay. What did you say? I'm sorry.
No, I said maybe I missed that.
Oh, I didn't say it. I'm sorry. I didn't say it. You're right. I'm jumping all over the place. I should stick to my thing, but you guys give me when you ask me questions, it reminds me of different stories that I tell. But I'll get on the schedule real quick. But for sure, in career development, I'll get to it at some point. You need mentors, you need coaches, you need champions, and you need sponsors. These are all different things. Everybody thinks, oh, mentor, that's it. A mentor is different from a champion. Can any of you tell me what the difference between a mentor and a champion is?
Take a stab at it.
Yeah, take a stab.
Your mentor is essentially giving you the knowledge. So as you go through things,
Yeah.
kind of looking at it, bouncing things off,
Yeah.
helping you grow up.
Okay.
Your champion is like, I'm going to go out to this person and sell you that person.
Absolutely, great. So Donna says, your mentor is someone who kind of guides your career, gives you advice on how to do things. A champion or a sponsor is actually someone who's in a position to get you hired or to get you promoted. A champion or a sponsor is someone who speaks about you when you're not in the room, who fights for you, For instance, Kendra, I'm not only like a mentor to her, I'm gonna be like her champion, sponsor. Hopefully I can be the same for all of you. If you ever need a job where I work, I can be not only a mentor, but your champion. So the problem with us, when I say us, people of color, there are not enough of us in positions to be our champions or be our sponsors. That's why we're at a disadvantage. No one is putting a gun to our head or putting us in chains and keeping us down. But we're inherently disadvantaged because there's not as much of us in positions of power to be champions. You can have mentors all day and all night, but it's champions and sponsors that really make the difference. And that's what I'm hoping to be for people as I rise in my career. It's not just to be a mentor or be your coach. I want to be in position I need an MSL for Atlanta. I'll call Kendra up. How much are you getting paid over there? 150? I'll give you 200 if you come to my team. That's what a champion or a sponsor can do. So that's why I'm trying to build you guys up so you can be in positions to be other people. Keep this going because we have a great gig. Once you get into industry, to me, it's the best job out there. It's like a secret that most people don't know. But we got to keep it going. It's so good. I want everybody to be as happy as I am. I'm here on a Saturday, working for free because that's how much I love what I do. And I wish everybody experienced it. All my friends who are still in practice, if they knew what I knew about this industry, they would have all switched. A lot of them are slaves to that handcuff, to the salaries or whatever that they're not willing to change. That's why I tend to talk more to pharmacists because at least a lot of you are more willing to take chances than physicians, So let's get to the agenda. So how to break in. Okay. So as I told you from all these crazy stories, you have to be flexible, okay? You have to be flexible. You have to network. How did I meet Kendra? Kendra didn't know me from Adam or Apple. She didn't know me from anybody. But what'd you do? You sent me an email or a LinkedIn request or something?
Some networking.
Yeah, she met me through networking.
Abby.
Abby?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so another one of my mentees, I guess, told her about me. I don't know. So she sent me a message saying she's interviewing at Santa. So I was like, you got to study this, you got to do this, you got to do that, do this, do that. And I helped her, but she's self-driven. She would have got in without me. I just made things a little easier for her to fly here from Atlanta to get here just to learn. That just tells you how she is. So I'm not trying to take credit that I got her into Santa Fe, but I might have made things a little bit easier for her. But that's how you got to be. You got to want it. You got to want it really, really bad. You got to be willing to do things other people are not willing to do, to learn and to grow. This is all about learning and growing. Why is it important for us to learn and grow? This is why I'm so passionate about learning and growing. My real passion and my real purpose, I feel that I was placed on this earth, and I hate to get religious on you guys, is to serve God, to know God and to serve God. And so part of everything I do is service, okay? But you can't serve people if you have nothing. You understand what I'm saying? If you're not successful, nobody's gonna want to listen to you. No, if I wasn't as successful as I am, you guys would not come here to listen to me. So that's why I want to know as much as I can so I can be able to teach people. I want to be as successful as I can. I want to grow as much as I can so I can help out other people. That's what makes me happy. The amount of money in my bank account doesn't make me as happy as I see Kendra being successful. I see Bukola that after we talk, they do something that I told them, and they go out and be successful. So that's been my passion. See another one of my guys, Ryan here. I'm so proud of this guy. Hey, welcome. Where's the thing? Hold on. We need no, I get everybody. I don't discriminate. All right. Welcome. Hold it hard. Okay. What's your hand up? This is Brian. Okay. Sorry, go ahead. Parking. Yeah, where'd you park?
Park on the
Is there a meter on it?
It's not a meter, but it says like 1 hour parking, and then there's a sign across.
Yeah, okay.
Towing enforced.
So maybe we can take a break in like 15 minutes. And there's a TD Bank over here parking lot. You can park there for free or meters and pay. But I would kind of recommend that there's either TD Bank or grocery store, little further down on the right. Just park there and come. Yeah. I'm sorry, there's not good parking here, but I chose it, to help them. Okay. So let me brag about Brian real quick. Brian is another one of my mentees. You see a common theme here. And another reason why I do this is to gain more mentees. I want to help more people out. So Brian works at Bayer. If it's not for him, I won't be at Bayer right now, okay? This is why giving always comes back to you. And I haven't really helped him much, but he's from Houston too. Where'd you go? What school did you go to?
University of Houston.
University of Houston. He was a fellow. The fellowship, the Rutgers Fellowship is a 2-year fellowship. But this guy is so good that after 1 year, they hired him all full time. And what was your position when you got hired?
Marketing.
No, but I'm saying, what was your title when you first got hired?
Senior manager.
No, that's your title now, right? Senior manager?
Product manager.
Okay, he was a manager. Only after a year of doing fellowship, they cut his fellowship short and hired him full time. He was a manager. Not even a year later, he was promoted to senior manager. Now you're a senior manager, right? This is all in the last, I've only been here a year and a half or so. When I first met him as a fellow, now he's a senior manager, and I'm going to work for the same company here. So that's networking. And I didn't reach out to him. He reached out to me. I never met you when I was in Houston. I met I don't want to put you on the spot, but I met his girl. I went, where did she go? University of Houston. I went to a graduation of one of my mentees at University of Houston, and I met his girlfriend, and we chatted. When he moved here from Houston, he reached out to me, and we just had lunch, chatted, whatever. I wish I helped him more, but he networked with me. So we kept in touch over the years. He started mentoring other fellows. Last time I saw him was at Santa Fe because they had some fellowship thing at Santa Fe, and that's the last time we talked. And every time I talked to him, he seemed so happy working at Bayer, and I saw how fast he was progressing, and that gave me a clue. I'm like, this guy, I know he's talented, but there are plenty of talented people in the industry, but they don't get promoted as quickly as he did. So that told me a couple things. I need to be like him, number one. Number two, like I told you before, I learn from anybody. I don't care if you're older than me, younger than me. I don't care if you're a doctor or not. I learn from people. So I was like, man, this guy's doing something right, and he must be working somewhere special. So when I started looking for jobs, I looked into Bayer, and I applied. Then I called him. I was like, yo, I'm interviewing at a job at your company, and this is how networking helps. Networking is a two-way thing, and networking is not just up and down. Like, it's not always me. This time, he helped me. So I told him I'm applying for a job at Bayer. Can you help me out? What can you do to help me out? Within an hour, he sent me all the interview questions that they ask people when they come to Bayer, and then he went and talked to one of the MSLs about the position that I was interviewing to ask them what will I need to know. They told me what drug to study. I had been studying this completely different drug, thinking that that's what they're hiring me for. But through talking to him and somebody else, I actually figured out the right drug to study. So when I went for my interview, I blew them out of the window because I knew what they were going to ask me already, and I knew everything about the drug. Okay. So getting back to your question about networking. Sorry. Huh? Battery is running low? On what? On this or that? Who's my laptop? Okay. All right. After this point, the charger's here. Yeah, sorry. We'll take a break in about 5 minutes because I feel like I've been talking too much. Thank you. We're running low on the battery, sorry. So networking goes both ways, and the whole time I've known him, I never thought that he was going to be in a position to help me. Similar story as the other story that I gave you about other MSLs that I networked with in Texas. My key opinion leader. Oh, I didn't even finish that story. The key opinion leader ended up having trained the boss who was going to hire me. So what I did was, before I went for my job interview, I told my key opinion leader, I am going to interview with this lady, and he said, of course I know her, I trained her. I said, okay, please, if they call you and ask about me, please give them a good account, good reference for me. Obviously, he wouldn't do that unless he really thinks that I'm good and I do my job well. So, but I primed him. So when I went to my interview, of course, I name dropped that I know this key opinion leader in Texas. She was like, "What? You know that guy? He trained me." So before I even left the interview, she picked up the phone and called the guy and said, "What do you think about this guy? He's coming here to interview for this position." The guy gave me a huge review, and that's what changed the game for me. Like, I went from Merck to Santa Fe, from one position to two position up. Again, that's networking, okay? So be intentional about networking, but be authentic. Don't just network because you want something out of people. And that's why we're gonna take a break. I want everybody here to network with each other, get to know each other, what each other does, what companies you work for, things like that, because you never know who's going to be in a position to help you, So don't underestimate anyone. And I'll tell you some of my horror stories from networking later, but let's take a 8-minute break. for you guys to use the restroom, snacks. We have coffee, donuts, and water in the other room. And then if you guys want me to answer some, those in the room, if there are things that I missed that you want to go over, we can go over. We'll be back 10:30 Eastern time, 10:30 Eastern time, or that's 9:30 Central, or 7:30 California time. I have one person calling in from California. That's tough. They woke up at 6 a.m. to call in. So thank you for calling. Text me if you have any questions so I can address them after the break. Thank you. Can we stop it? No, we gotta keep going? Oh, then mute it. You wanna mute it? What's going on? 20 or 30 minutes, write your questions down. I'll pause and ask you questions, and then you ask me. That way, I can really stick to the script. So let me see which one I'm gonna get here. So the first, we started at 9, right?
Yes.
Hour and a half.
Uh-huh.
We talked mainly about mindset, but we're gonna start getting into concrete stuff. But I want to finish my mindset stuff because I think it's very important. So there's a slide titled "Vision, Time Travel." You know what? I didn't send you this stuff, Brian. Hold on.
I can forward it to her if you don't want to.
Oh.
He got you already.
You didn't get it? Did you check your email this morning? Yeah, exactly. Do you mind sending it to Brian? Yeah, the updated one.
It's slide 9.
Slide 9. Okay, yeah. Tell me when you're done, then I can start.
You can go ahead, right?
I can go. Okay.
Go ahead.
Man,
You said this morning?
yeah. Maybe I didn't. Did you ever send me your email address?
I don't think so.
If you didn't, then you're missing a bunch of stuff. All right.
No.
Get her to send it to you. And there was stuff I sent this morning stuff, and there are 3 documents I also sent them.
Okay.
She'll get them all to you.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Sorry, I missed all these texts. I have a text from Rachel, Michael, Mike, Miguel, Neil, my financial plan. And who's this? Oh, I have a good question here. Do you have any tips on how to create connections with people when you really don't have anything to offer? That's a great question. Let me go through that before I get back into it. Like I mentioned, when I make connections, I'm not making them to try to offer. I mean, because I actively want something from people. But to answer your question, the quickest, best way to build rapport, and this will work for your interviews, because when you're interviewing for jobs, the first 5-10 minutes is all about building rapport. So the quickest, best way to build rapport with people is to find areas of common interest. Or if you have no area of common interest, talk about areas of common pain. So I hope that answers your question. I'll give you an example. So me and Dahar, we are connected because we're both half African. Well, I'm half and full African. So I could talk to her about how being from Egypt, did she live in Egypt? Tell me about Egypt culture, things like that. So we're connected in that way. We're also connected that we both work for Merck. So I can ask her about Merck, blah, 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 blah. When you walked in, Rachel, I asked you what country you were from, because I knew you were African by your name. But I don't know why I thought you were Nigerian, but she's Cameroonian. So, yeah, so we talked a little bit about, well, I haven't gotten to talk. I haven't had time to build rapport with you guys, but I will when we go out to eat after this, hopefully. But building rapport is about finding areas of common interest or common pain. It's extremely rare for you to find someone where you have absolutely nothing in common. But when that happens, then look for things that you both hate. If you both hate Trump, start talking about Trump. Not in interviews, but I'm just talking just in general. You talk about things that you both love or have in similar, or things you both hate. For that, if you use that simple recipe, you can build rapport with anybody quickly. You know, like Buko, we can talk about we're both Nigerian, blah 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 blah. Same. You see, there's Kendra. Her and I worked at Sanofi together. She's from Atlanta. I lived in Atlanta for a year and a half, so I could talk to her about that. You know, so and so. So, and for you to do that, you got to do your research. Okay, if you're trying to network with someone that you're gonna go meet, and I didn't have time to do it for you guys, but I definitely do this for my job interviews. We're gonna talk about it when we go on job interviews. I pretty much stalk everybody. What I wanted to do with all of you is go look at your LinkedIn profiles, go look at your Facebook, go look at your Instagram. If anything that's public that I can find on you guys, Google, you have to do that. And we'll talk about that more. That way you can figure out ways of common interest or common pain. If you Google anybody and you're observant, you can figure that out quickly. And all of you here are extremely smart and personable, so I'm sure you'll be able to do it. So I hope that answers your question. We had someone online ask, do you have any tips on creating connection with people you don't really have anything to offer? Like, and when you have something to offer, it makes it even easier to connect with people. But I don't think that should be your first thing. I think just look for areas of common interest or common pain. You can talk about coronavirus with anybody because it's something this is common pain for all of us. So if all else fails, talk about coronavirus, you know? And listen more than speaking. Be a listener, be a good listener, be an active listener. And it takes practice, trust me. Okay, when I went from college to medical school, okay, I was definitely afraid of job interviews. I had to interview for medical school. You guys see me now, you think, man, this guy's very social. He's not afraid, he'll talk to anybody. But I was really scared of interviews back in the day when I finished college. But what made me as good as I am now is practice. Bombing a lot of interviews, and being active about being better. Like for me, I feel like the first hour and a half, I hope you guys got something out of it. But to me, I feel like I bombed it, and I'll go home and think about it and figure out ways I can be better next time. So as long as if you have that infinite mindset we talked about earlier, which is always learning and grow, you never be afraid of failing. If you fail, you say, how can I do this better? How can I grow from this? What can I do better? You know. So I hope that answers that question. All right, let me get on the agenda. So you said this was slide 9. Everyone look at slide 9. I was watching the Dame Dash interview, and he made the statement. There were a lot of curse words in it. I tried to clean it up, but it was profound. It was the deepest thing I've ever heard about setting your goals, creating vision. So he said, I'm a time traveler. I go to the future and I figure out where I want to be, and I come back to the present and I invest in everything that is going to take to make my future so dope that by the time it's my present, he said, everything is A1. I just changed that. I said, everything is great. So I think that is so profound, okay? So for me, at first, my goal in the industry was to be a CEO. That was my CEO. So what did I do? I went and started studying all these black CEOs in the industry. Ken Frazier, I've sent him an email before, and he responded to me. This is while I was at Merck, by the way, Gaha. Ken Frazier, he's like he's not the only big pharma. He's the only big pharma black CEO now.
Who is he?
He's the CEO at Merck. Okay, and it's because of him that I went to Merck. I was like, if a black man is the CEO of a Fortune 500, something got to be happening right there. So I've been trying to meet him the whole time at Merck, but when you're in the field, there's no way in hell you're going to meet the CEO. So finally, when the Trump thing happened, when he quit the Trump panel, there was a lot of backlash and all that. I actually sent him an email on my Merck email, and he responded. I don't know if it was him or his admin, but he responded, and I saved that thing. So I have that. So I study him. I've watched every single YouTube of him, like on the internet. I have a lot of virtual mentors. So you guys who are struggling to have sponsors and mentors, be like me. Have virtual mentors. Do you know who the richest black person in the US is? Does anybody know? Nope. No one has probably heard of him. But after this, I need y'all to go study him. His name is Robert Smith. Have you guys heard of him now? No? He's the guy who gave everyone at Morehouse. He paid off all their student loans. You guys heard about the guy? So now you know him. So this guy, he has maybe 4 videos on YouTube. I've watched all those videos. And his big message is be a master of your craft. And I take that to heart. Okay? So I love reading, but I'm lazy about reading or too busy sometimes. So what I do is I watch a lot of YouTube of great people or people that I want to be my mentors, okay? So that's one tip I want to give you guys about time travel. You go look at someone who's doing something that you want to do or who's where you want to be, and you study them. And that's traveling to the future. And then now you come back to the present, and then you do what they did or do what they said and all that. And eventually, by the time you're there, you'll be just as good as them. So I studied him. I've studied Oprah. I've studied Bezos. I've studied all the greats. But let's talk about the pharma industry. I can count in one hand how many VPs of medical affairs or chief medical officers are black. Every single one of them, I've sent them a friend request on LinkedIn or I follow them on LinkedIn. And I read all their posts. I study all their moves. If you've been following me on LinkedIn, you will notice I've been doing a lot of speaking at medical affairs conferences. Why do you think I started doing that? Because I noticed all the VPs and Med Affairs, all the CMOs, they do that. And that helps build their brand in the industry. It helps build their brand in LinkedIn. It helps them network with other VPs and CMOs. So I started doing that. So I encourage all of you, it's never too early to start doing it. I'm gonna teach you my tricks and how I do those conferences. I'll give you all that. Well, I'll just give it to you now. We'll just talk about networking and branding. So I study people like crazy. That's how I time travel, is by studying great people. So this lady, the chief medical officer for Pfizer. Do you guys know her? I'm blanking on her name. I think her name is, she wears glasses. Just put CMO of Pfizer. She's on TV a lot. Yes, that's her. That lady drops some gems on LinkedIn. Do you know how many times I've sent her emails to take her out to lunch so I can pick her brain? She's never responded to one of them. She doesn't even respond to my LinkedIn requests. But I see all her stuff. I see all her posts because I follow her. VP of Medical Affairs when I was at Sanofi. His name is Paul what? Forgetting his last name. I sent him an email. I made an appointment to go see him. The admin gave me the runaround for 6 months. I never got to meet him directly. So you know what I did? I met the guy who was under him, who happened to be black. He and I became friends, and he introduced me to him, you know? But I've been following this guy even before I got to Sanofi. He's an Ivy League graduate too. He went to Harvard, I went to Yale. So I noticed he always talks at all these conferences. He does all it. That's why I started doing it. You see what I'm saying? So this is how you network, how you build your vision is by studying people. We have a luxury that our parents didn't have. They didn't have social media to do this, but we have social media, so we can make it so much easier. We have YouTube, we have social media, we have Google. So I told you guys earlier that I want to be a CMO, or I want to be a VP of Medical Affairs. So I'm making my job to study VPs of Medical Affairs, CMOs. I study everything they do. Every company that I work for, I study what the VP of Medical Affairs guys are doing. I study what the chief medical officers are doing. I study what the CEOs do. So you guys have to do this. You got to do whatever that your next goal is, or what your ultimate goal is. I actually encourage you to start with the next goal and work your way up. Because my next step after being an ED now, my next position would be a VP, and that's why I'm studying VPs now or CMO. But when I wanted to be an MSL, I studied what MSLs did. I met all the MSLs in my region. When I'm in the same situation as them, I ask them questions. I ask them what they did, how they got to what they did. So that's what networking is about. Just studying people, being genuine, trying to learn what other people are doing, whether by asking them specifically or studying them from a side. I can tell you a lot of stuff about people who are doing what I want to do, even though most of them I haven't talked to. Okay. Okay. Let's keep on that topic of branding. What would you guys say my brand is? Just from, I know a lot of you don't. I'm not going to start with Kendra. I'll start with Donna. What do you think my brand is? Like, what is it about that you saw on me, YBP, that made you say, I'm going to pay $50 to come see me? That's what I think my brand is. What is it?
So for me,
Yes.
your brand was your service. So the fact that you were taking those seeds, donating it, and then so willing to give everything
Yeah.
that you know,
Yeah.
that was
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. What do you think my brand is? Well, she convinced you. So
No.
Did you see the post? Are you on YBP?
I am, but I
Okay.
really don't
You don't. Okay.
follow it.
So what did she tell you that made you come see me? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna go based off of LinkedIn.
Okay, good.
I mean, she sent me like just the post that
Yeah.
she, I guess, posted on.
And then you went and stalked me, and then you came.
I did not.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm joking. No, you went and looked at my LinkedIn.
Yeah, I just saw it this morning.
Okay.
But even your background, I
Okay.
think was very interesting. How you went, like you said, into big pharma. You've been at smaller pharmas.
Let me put the mic on so they can hear you. Sorry. Keep going. Keep going.
Like I said, how you went into big pharma, and then you were also in small pharma. So I would assume, based off of that alone, that you know what you're talking about.
Okay, good. Sorry, no, say one more thing.
No, go ahead.
Okay. Okay. What is it that made you come here? What is it? Did you see my profile that made you come?
I'm not on LinkedIn.
Okay.
In
you need to be
YPP,
on LinkedIn, by
I have
sure.
reasons. I will go back.
Okay,
But I have reasons
we'll
why
talk.
I used to have. I have reasons why I went on.
Okay.
Different topic.
Yeah.
Being in YBP as an incognito observer.
Yeah.
I studied, well, your responses to a lot of the topics would draw my attention.
Okay.
I noticed that you went against
The grain.
And you challenged,
Yeah.
you were challenging what a lot of people were just agreeing to.
Yeah.
And you were giving people something else to think about.
Yeah.
That would challenge their opinions and their thoughts.
Okay.
And that is what, gravitated.
All right, thank you.
She did tell me that. And
Okay, good.
And then I think I did kind of browse the why.
Why? Okay, good. Thank you. So I'm most shocked about Kendra being here because I've given her and told her everything that I could possibly think of, and she still thought there's something else she could learn. So tell me, why'd you come?
I came to support ICE because
Okay.
it's just been so helpful over the last year and a half that I've been in pharma, and I really do respect him quite a bit.
Yeah.
Also, I just know how passionate he is. He's an expert, and he's been there, done that. So kind of like him, he's studying people. I study people as well, and
Yeah.
I've been studying him. We've been having conversations, and I feel like I've learned a ton of things. So I didn't want to miss a thing. So I came.
Okay. All right. Sorry to put you guys on the spot. Okay. Brian, I don't know. I'm gonna put Brian. Why'd you come?
Can't breathe.
Yeah.
No, I came to support you, obviously, but continue learning. Obviously, there's always something else that you can get. Regardless of how many people you can talk to, if it's a 3-hour session and I get 5 minutes worth of gems, I think it's very, very, very helpful. So.
Okay, thank you. So most of you are said, either here to support me, or what else? I forgot what you said. You said.
You asked me a different question.
Oh, what
You
did
asked me what I thought you were playing for.
Oh yeah, that is but no, it still relates. Like my brand, I love to teach and I love to serve. So that's my brand, like I told you guys before. So most people are here because they feel like they can learn something from me, or maybe I've served them and they feel like they need to help me, help me back. So at least I think there's some consistency in the way people perceive me. So the thought I'm trying to bring here is you have to decide for yourself what you were brought to this earth is. And make sure that everything you're doing aligns with that. Okay. Even when I tell you guys I go speak at these conferences, I don't know the real reasons why these guys do it. But me, I love to teach, so I'm going there to teach on the topic. And two, I love to learn, so I'm going there to learn. Okay. So I'm gonna give you guys my gem on how I go teach at these conferences. So most of these, like even MSL Society or all that, these conferences, they charge like $2,000 or $5,000 for you to go and attend their conference. If you work for Big Pharma, they will pay for you to go. But most companies will not pay for you to go. When I worked for Sanofi, they were diabetes. We were going through hard times, so they were not about to pay for me to go speak at a conference. And as a matter of fact, some big companies discourage you from doing it because they don't want you to go speaking off script in terms of the company. So if you're gonna go speak, make sure it's cleared by the legal department of your company, especially if you're in Big Pharma, or you can get in trouble. But for me, the way I do it, it's easier for me now because I've built, I'm considered an expert in MSL, just not in MSL, in medical affairs, because of all my years of experience and things like that. And I've also worked for Big Pharma. So they like to have names like mine on their flyer. But what I do is I've already prepared a couple of topics that I'm passionate about teaching on. So I approach them. I figure out who their organizer is and tell them, I want to speak at your conference and I want to speak on this topic. Most of them will say no. Once in a while, some of them will say yes. And then you can go speak. And then you don't have to pay to go to that conference. And I try to get my talk out of the way. And I spend the rest of the time learning from other people because that's what I went there to do anyway, is to learn. So me teaching is my entrance fee to get in for free. But while I'm there learning, and I'm there networking with everyone. So I encourage you guys to try that. If that doesn't work, another thing that works, you wait closer, like 2 or 3 days before the actual conference, and you reach out to them and be like, did someone drop out? If they dropped out, I'm willing to come step in and speak on their behalf because I'm already prepared. I already have my talk prepared. They love that. The last one I did was 2-3 weeks ago. One of the guys was supposed to speak from California, but he never showed up. I literally sent them an email the day before, and they were happy to have me come speak. Even though I wasn't in the original brochure, which I like to have so I can use that on my LinkedIn as part of my branding. Later on, they did a thank you thing and they put pictures of everyone who spoke. So I used that and posted on my LinkedIn, So that's how I'm building my brand on LinkedIn. So I'm curious, if you don't mind sharing, why do you not like to use LinkedIn?
So in the beginning, I mentioned that I was in pharma before and I left. I was entry level, and the company was going through a lot of changes. So I left, I went into consulting, and I shut off my LinkedIn because I was moving into a different career. I didn't want to get stuck into one thing or have people have one idea. So I was QA before. So I was moving into a different career and into a different role. So I shut off. I am coming back. But that was one of the main reasons.
Okay. I can see how that's valid because people like to peg you. People like to pigeonhole you. I can tell you I had a a huge difficulty switching from being an MSL to going back in-house. Even though it was easier for me than it would be for most of you because I'd already held an in-house position as a medical director. So it wasn't difficult for companies outside of Merck to see me as an in-house medical director. But at Merck, once I became an MSL, they look at you one way. They don't think you can be an in-house medical affairs person. So I interviewed, give me 1 second, I'll get to a point. I interviewed for like 5 jobs that I know for a fact that I was overqualified for, in-house jobs at Merck. And they continued to say, I would make it to the finals and they'll give it to someone who was already in-house. I'll make it to the finals, they'll give it to someone who was in-house. Finally, I was winning all these awards and all this stuff. And I was like, these people are not gonna let me come back in-house, so these people are not gonna promote me. Partially, I felt I made their numbers look good. As you know, if you're in an MSL, there's metrics that they follow. And my territory was smaller than most people, and I already knew all these KOLs. I had them on my phone, so I could see them as easily and as often as I can. So my metrics looked really good. So it made my boss look really good. So for them to give me up, their territory metrics would have gone down. So in a way, I think that might have hurt me. But I kept trying within Merck, and it didn't work, so I went somewhere else. So the point of my story is sometimes people set their idea of what they think you should be or you should do. And no matter what you do within that environment or those people, they're not going to change. That's a good reason for you to try to go somewhere else, for sure. Don't ever let anybody limit your success or limit how far you can go.
I wanted to say something from like a recruiting standpoint.
Say
it. My point now.
So, like I said, I worked for an executive recruiting company.
Yeah.
So we primarily hired like biotechs and like these pharma companies, like their CEOs.
Mm-hmm.
Medical director was a big one. VP of some like MSLs, like stuff like that. But coming from like that standpoint, like they wanted to see like some type of progression.
Yes.
And then some of them also had like people that they had in mind,
Mm-hmm.
like or some people that they recommended within the office.
Yes.
I don't think that we hired too many like people that came like from in office,
Mm-hmm.
like or in house, I guess, because they usually wanted someone out from the outside to give them like a different perspective or like a different way of doing things.
Yeah.
So I forgot my point, like I said, but I just remember that was like some of the points.
Thank you for sharing. It's always good to hear a different perspective. By the way, we are on the branding and networking part of the outline. One thing I learned from one of my mentors, once you get up to the VP levels, chief medical levels, CEOs, you don't get those jobs really by interviewing, okay? Once you get that high of a level, you're basically recruited. Someone you've already known for years, they get in a position, they become a chairman of a board, or they become part of a board, and they be like for me, if I was ever in a big position that I needed someone who's head of marketing, or head of sales, VP of sales, or even if I was part of a board and I needed a CEO, knowing Brian all these years, he's like the first person I would try to recruit to come run the, and that's why it's important for us to keep these relationships and nurture it over the years. When you're climbing up the ladder, yes, networking will help you, being a master at your craft helps and things like that, but there's a certain level that it gets to where you don't go for interviews for those jobs. People just recruit you to take the job, Once in a while.
Yeah, I would say like they had like some people had a list of like what they were looking for.
Yeah.
So then we would have to recruit. But like some people would like say like they want someone like the leader of Sanofi or something.
Yeah.
So and those people are harder to get for like a smaller biotech.
Yes.
So that's impossible.
Yeah. So but yeah, so the point I'm saying, getting back to the branding and networking, the biggest way you can brand yourself is to become an expert at something. Okay, that's the biggest way you can brand yourself is to become an expert at something. Master your craft. Figure out what you want to be an expert in. Stick with it. Do it enough to become an expert. If you're jumping around every year or 2 years or whatever, it may not be enough to become an expert. So spend like 3 or 4 years in a specific topic and be intentional about learning and growing in that topic. Then you become an expert. Giving you an example of me, been 11 years in the industry. I spent maybe an average of 3 years in a company. Even though I've switched around a lot, I'm very consistent that I've been sticking with cardiovascular and diabetes. Even now that cardiovascular and diabetes are not so in vogue, I've switched to cardio-renal. They call it cardio-renal, but I'm really in kidney-renal. But the drug that I'm going to be launching next year is diabetics with kidney disease. So even though I'm now in the kidney area, it's kidney area still with diabetes. So I'm still consistent with my brand and still all the expertise, all the relationships that I've gathered in diabetes is going to help me in this job, even though now I'm in nephrology. Nephrology is still not the hottest thing because it's not immunology, it's not oncology, it's not rare disease, but I'm sticking with my brand, I'm sticking with my passion, and that's how I'm progressing. So even when you have to switch brands, don't try to go from one complete brand to a completely different brand. You can do it, but you probably have to start all over. If you want to maintain going up, if you're going to tweak something, tweak it a little bit. That way it's a little bit similar, an adjacent area. If you want to not have to start over. It's like climbing a mountain and you decide, oh, I want to climb a different mountain. You got to go all the way down and start again to climb another mountain. Rather than if you want to get to the top of this mountain, you may start off going this way and decide, oh, this way may be easier, or this way is blocked. I'm gonna go here but I keep going up, okay? So that's the point I'm trying to make about branding. The first thing is become a master at something. If you're not a master, start learning, be intentional about learning it. If you guys notice on my LinkedIn again, when I do a lot of talks, I'm either talking about medical affairs, I'm talking about digital technology. I'm intentional about that because I feel like digital technology is the future of this world, and we're going to get to that when we talk about the different revolutions. I'm not an expert of digital technology yet, so I like to go to a lot of digital technology conferences so I can learn more about it. So that's how I'm learning about it. And then when I go there trying to present as an expert, obviously I need to present something that I really know. I'm going to look like I don't know what I'm doing. So I try to talk about something with medical affairs and technology. I tie it back to my real expertise. That's my anchor to get into the conference. But when I get to the conference, then I learn as much as I can about digital technology, okay? So as I'm getting closer to my goal of becoming a VP or a CMO, I've already thought about my next future. My next future involves something with digital technology. I don't know when I'm going to do it. I don't care how long it takes for me to get there, but I know I'm going to get there. But until I get there, I'm going to keep learning and growing and learning about digital technology because I know digital technology is going to be involved in anything that I do. Okay, so that's some pearls about branding. Networking. I think we've talked about networking a lot. Does anybody have any further questions about networking?
So about the branding.
Yeah. Yeah.
So do you relate branding just to your function or to business? So as an example is, even if you're doing a different function, but you're still in the same disease state, does that help build your brand? Or if you're in the same function and you move to a different disease state?
Can you give me a concrete example?
So I think a concrete example is, like, I started off as a clinical pharmacist in infectious disease.
Okay.
And when I switched to pharma, I switched into pain and GI.
Okay.
And then now I'm switching back.
To infectious disease? Okay. So what's the question? What's the point?
So the question is, like, is that still a part of the brand? Should you stay within whatever your disease
Okay.
is?
The answer is it's complicated and it depends. But I always ask, what's your ultimate purpose? Tell me what your goal is. Are you still trying to figure it out right now?
Honestly, my goal right now
Yeah.
is work-life balance.
Work-life balance. I think that's most of our goals, especially if you're in medical affairs or veterans. That was one of my biggest goals too. Like career goal, whatever I'm doing, I wanted to have autonomy, meaning I wanted to be able to, if I need to take off today, I can take off today. If I didn't want to work today, I didn't want to work today. Autonomy is big for me. Number two, work-life balance. I want to be, like, my baby's going to get born any day now. My wife is 9 months as of yesterday. Any day my baby's going to get born. If I was still in the hospital and I was on call and my baby was born, I don't think it would be easy for me to leave and call and go witness my baby's delivery. I mean, I would need to find someone to cover for me before I can leave. But right now in the industry, no matter what I'm doing, the minute my wife calls me saying, I'm having contraction, I'm dropping whatever I'm doing to go see my baby born. So that was one of my biggest things, autonomy. Another reason why I left hospital practice to pharmaceutical industry. Work-life balance. When I was in practice, I was on call every 3 to 4 nights, meaning I worked all night. If I was not in the hospital, I was at home, but the residents would call me 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning. I worked most weekends and I worked most major holidays. That's the life of a hospitalist. Hospitalists, you're on call every 3 or 4 nights. Now that I'm in the industry, I don't work weekends. On the weekend, I can be here volunteering my time to raise money for this church and to educate people, So and yesterday I spent all day, don't tell Bayer, but, shopping for baby clothes and stocking up for this coronavirus scare. At night I did my Bayer work, but, that's autonomy, that's work-life balance. And I'm still earning, I'm definitely earning more than I would have if I was still in practice. So for you to be able to have autonomy, the biggest thing, when you master a craft and you create so much value, you can call your own shots, basically, okay? I can give you an example. Most of the big pharma companies, they don't let you work from home if you're not an MSL, most of them, you work from home on Fridays. Most of the big pharma, when you're working in a corporate position. But most of them don't let you work from another state. MSL is the only one where I know where you can work remotely. There are a couple other positions where you can do that. But I know VPs when I was at Sanofi, one of my VPs, she works from South Carolina. And she came into work, she came to the office maybe once every 2 or 3 weeks. You know who the person is. I don't have to say her name. My boss, I had a boss who lived in New York, even though our headquarters is here. And she would come into the office maybe 3 times a week. There was another boss, the big boss. He used to have a company car bring him to work every day from New York. He lived in New York. So these are the things these people are able to do because they've gotten so good at their craft that they're highly desired. So the company is willing to make exceptions for them. If you're not valuable, if you don't bring value to a company, you can't call your shots. You can't be like, oh, I need 1 month of vacation a year, or I need to go off and do something. So the best way you can create work-life balance in the industry. This doesn't work for every industry, but in pharma it does. Is to be incredible, valuable, to be so valuable you can't be denied. Companies will be fighting to hire you. Like, so trying to answer your specific question, it's okay to be working on a couple of different brands. You don't have to stick with just one brand. That's me. My brand, my career, my brands are diabetes, medical affairs, and digital technology. So I'm working on 3 different brands. So there's no one who says, oh, you just have to have one brand. But at your job, for sure, you need to have a brand that you're reliable, you know your stuff, those 2 things. If you don't have that brand with everyone who works around you, then you're not gonna elevate as quickly, you know what I mean? So at your job, you need to have the most important thing. I know we spend a lot of time talking about networking and things like that, or now we're gonna get to the juicy stuff. The foundation of everything is to be an expert at your craft, okay? Because you can network all you want. Networking gets you in the door, but if you don't deliver results, you're not gonna get promoted, or you're not gonna stay long. You'll get fired. So as you're working on networking, you should also work on knowing your stuff.
So my question is, how do you become an expert of your craft without allowing it to consume your life?
That's a fantastic question. He asked, how do you become an expert at a craft without allowing it to consume your life? That's the age-old challenge that everybody has. Prioritization, I would say. Being efficient with your time, okay? I don't know why I was struggling with this word. Oh, I got it, finally, after 2 days. Compartmentalization. Thank you, say that out loud.
Compartmentalization.
Okay, that's the biggest trick. I'm gonna give you an example. Like, what's the name of the CEO of Tesla? What's his name? CEO of Tesla. Elon Musk. I study him for this question. Then, yeah. Do you realize Elon Musk is the CEO of 2 companies, not just one company? 2 multi-billion-dollar companies. People are projecting that Elon Musk is going to be the first trillionaire. Okay. Not only is he a CEO of Tesla, which is making a lot of money now, he's also CEO of a company that makes rockets, like space. He does all these space launches. And he's also working on this other project to dig an underground highway in California. The guy is just crazy. You might as well clone him. So I studied how super successful people are able to multitask and be successful. I've even read books about it. To me, the biggest thing is I can't pronounce that word, but the word we said. So when you're at work, you need to be completely focused on work. Make sure that you're maximizing your time to the fullest. When you're at home, if you have a wife and kids, you need to be completely focused on your wife and kids and things like that. Whenever you try to do half and half, either at work or half and half at home, you have trouble, okay? So I'll tell you what's going on in my life right now. I got laid off. I just found a new job. What else? My wife is pregnant. She's expected. We're looking for a house. We were gonna buy a house, but we decided we're gonna rent. We're just thinking about coronavirus. I have family crises going on in my house, in my family. I'm trying to learn as much as I can about this new drug that I'm gonna be leaving to launch, because I can't go to Bayer and not deliver. Like, they're paying me a lot of money, and this drug is like the most important, no offense, but the most important drug for the company's future. So there's a lot of eyes on my team. So I can't go in there half prepared. So the way I learned, my wife already knows when I'm at work. We barely talk. Like I'll send her text saying, "How are you doing? How's your day going?" Blah blah blah. But she knows not to call me when I'm at work because I'm busy at work. But most people know. Kendra can tell you, you can't call me after 5 o'clock. After 5, you can't call. I'm not gonna. I don't pick up. I don't deal with anything work related after. I try my best not to deal with anything work related once I get home. So only if it's an emergency would I pick up, and I may text. Well, I'm never texting in front of my wife. Um, I don't talk work in front of my wife. So a lot of time when I do my mentor stuff, and she will probably notice, when I'm driving from my job home, that's when I'm making phone calls, talking to mentees, stuff like that. Or when I'm doing most of my reading, since I don't have a lot of time to read, I watch a lot of YouTubes. My wife already knows, it drives her nuts. When I go into the shower is when I'm watching my YouTube. When I'm brushing my teeth, I'm listening to YouTube videos. When I'm driving to work, I'm listening to YouTube videos about people I look up to. When I do most of my reading, it's when I'm on plane flights to different conferences. That's when I read like my self-help books because the plane, there's no distractions. Your internet doesn't work, whatever. So that's when I actually read books. But when I'm audiobooks, I do when I'm driving to work or back from work. YouTube, I'm on the shower when I first get up, or So I segment my time for different things, and then weekends is family time. Saturday is my wife's time. I hate grocery shopping with a passion. My wife hates it too. So she likes it when I go with her grocery shopping, even though I absolutely hate it. So I do my best to go with her grocery shopping Saturday. Sunday, church time. Sunday, I go to church, I read the Bible after church, things like that. So you have to be really efficient about, I don't know, does that answer your question?
Yeah, but I have one more. So you mentioned multitasking.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've been trying to find more ways of being more efficient. But different books I've read show that when you multitask, you're actually less efficient. So how do you still deal with a lot of different priorities at an optimal level without doing it one by one?
No, I agree with you, and I've probably read those same books. There's no true thing about multitasking. That's why I say it's segmenting things. Like pick hours of the day when you devote to things exclusively. I don't believe in this hour I'm talking to family and spending time with my wife. So I divide my day into different chunks. I notice that I'm most productive in terms of reading in the morning. At night, I can read, but I'm not very efficient. So from when I wake up to when I jump in the shower is when I do most of my reading. When I have to read like an article related to my drug, say I woke up at 5 or 6 this morning, before my wife is up, I'm reading she wakes up earlier than me most of the time, but now that she's pregnant, she sleeps in more than I do. So I do most of that's why you guys noticed I had updated slides this morning versus yesterday. I was supposed to do it yesterday, but I was so tired. But I'd already promised you guys I was going to send you something. So I sent you something, so I'm a man of my word. But I woke up super early. I've been up, 5 this morning. I added extra stuff and sent it out this morning. Right, my wife is not here because, and you guys are going to kill me for this, we had a baby class for first-time parents that was scheduled from 9 to 12 this morning. I didn't realize it when I scheduled this thing, and I couldn't change the class because the class only happens once a month, and by next month, she's gonna already have delivered. So this was the last day that we could. So you guys, when you see my wife, you thank her because she went to the class and I'm here because I promised to do this for Austin. I promised to do this for you guys. So once in a while, you have to have an understanding partner when you to understand when I prioritize I would say my passion over my marriage. You know what I mean? This is a very important thing in my life that I'm missing to be here. I would not have done it if I wasn't so passionate about it. Of course, I have to make it up for her, to her somehow, but I will. Yeah.
I think, what you're pointing out, what I found is the flexibility.
Yeah.
So finding time that you can do things.
Yeah.
And I'm also, if you find someone higher up who's a wife and mother,
Yeah.
they're really good at
Yeah.
compartmentalizing.
That's true.
Kind of taking assess of what's going in your life at that time.
Yeah.
And how can you fit in those top priorities in that way. So for like me, my top priority right now is with my family.
Yeah.
So I spend my time at home like with my son, with my family. But once he goes to bed, now I have like 2 hours that I can dedicate to work.
Absolutely.
And then expressing realistically what your timelines are, what your priorities are to your management, because
yes,
if you have something done and they have an expectation but you're not able to reach it, then you're kind of looked at with a side eye. But if you do after their expectations, as long as you've expressed it up front, then there's more of a understanding.
Thank you. Dina brought some great points. She says you need to be flexible about when you're prioritizing things, and you need to be vocal and communicate to everyone what your priorities are, especially your bosses at work and things like that. I agree with you 100%. For me, my priority has always been my family. Family first, then work, then friends. Lately, as I've become a better Christian, and I hate to bring up religion, especially for those who are non-religious, my priority now is God, getting to know God. That's my number one priority. Number two is my family, and number three is my job. So there's very rare situations where I would sacrifice family, like today, where I'll sacrifice family over a job. But my wife understands. I'm lucky to have an understanding wife, and she understands how passionate about. To me, I feel like this is serving God and serving my passion. So she knows how much that means to me, and she allows me to be able to make this difficult choice. But you also need to understand that sometimes things at home are going to be really bad, and you have to flex and spend more time at home, more things like that at home, getting that right. And work may suffer a little bit, and so vice versa. Like, even though you have your underlying priority for yourself, sometimes crises come up in different areas of your life that will make you have to spend more time on one area than the other. Because I can tell you, when my home life is not good, my work life suffers. And that's why my home life is a big priority over work. Work can be bad, okay? But if your home life is good, you're good. Like, let's talk about when I got laid off from Sanofi. It was the worst experience ever. I kind of expected it. As you can tell, you can ask Kendra, we talked about it months before it even happened. And that's partially why I started going out and speaking, because I was networking in case I lost my job, so I can be able to bounce back quickly. So everything I've ever done is strategic. But then I got to a point where I was like, if I get laid off, as long as they give me severance pay, I'm good. And they did. They really took care of me. And so they gave me the severance pay, and I got in a situation where there was a time I had like 4 job offers, and I ended up going with the best one. If I went with the first one, I wouldn't have earned as much money and had the great title that I have now. My first job offer was with Novartis, and I thought Novartis was my dream country. Dream company. I wanted to work for them because they do a lot of good work in Africa. Their pipeline is crazy. They're launching so many drugs and things like that. But they know that they're so good, that they don't pay people what they deserve. Like, first, the job they offered me was the same title I had at Sanofi. And as I told you guys, I wanted growth. I always want growth. If I'm gonna switch jobs, I better get something out of it, whether it's by choice or not by choice. So I said, if Sanofi lay me off, I'm gonna make sure the next job I get is better than the job that I had at Sanofi, and I'm gonna make sure the next job I get, I'm getting paid more than I got paid at Sanofi. I accomplished that. But if I wouldn't have accomplished that if I didn't do all the homework ahead of time, which we talked about. All right, so let's get to the next topic. So the first thing we talked about is what your goals are. And you can go from big picture goals to more concrete goals. Big picture goals are things like you want to have service to God or service to man or work-life balance, things like that. More concrete work-related goals are things like I want to be a CMO, I want to be a vice president. Then you have your short-term goals, like for me now that I have a new job, I want to make sure I give a good impression. So you want to have long-term goals, mid-range goals, short-term goals. You want to have abstract goals. You want to have concrete goals and more specific goals. And with those specific goals, you want to have some goals for your spiritual or religious, whatever you want to call it, that. You want to have one for your home, your work-life balance, your home situation. You want to have one for your professional situation. And there's seasons. You're going to have a season for where you're going to be putting a lot of energy into work. There's going to be a season where you're going to be putting a lot of energy into your family life and things like that. Before I got married, I got married late. I'm going to be 43 this year in May. I didn't get married till I was 41. And that's because I spent a lot of time on career and having fun. But as I got older, I realized, you got to start a family. If you want to leave a legacy, you got to start a family. So I started to learn, instead of focusing so much on work, I started learning more about relationships, how to have a healthy relationship, how to have the right wife, what to look for in a wife, things like that. And once I got married, work took a back seat a little bit, and I focused more on building my relationship with my wife. Now that I feel like my relationship is in a good spot, now I'm focused on legacy, and that's part of why I'm doing what I'm doing. I want to give back. I want to grow future leaders. I want to make sure I set up a nice inheritance for my kids and things like that. Okay, so make sure you live a balanced life. You don't want to be so good at one area and the other area you're really bad. Like there's a lot of CEOs who are divorced or who kids are on drugs and things like that. They look successful financially or professionally, but in their home life they're not doing well. Okay, so there's a concept that I learned throughout my professional career that helped me make that switch from being a practicing physician to be a pharma physician. And that is executives, this is slide 10, I think. Executives get paid for value they can create and not their time, okay? So when I was a physician, I always knew I liked to teach, so private practice was not private practice wasn't an option for me because I wanted to keep teaching. So I wanted to teach medical students, medical residents. So I went into academia. The problem with when you're in academia, you earn much less than you would if you were in private practice. Is it me or is it hot in here? Austin. I feel hot.
No, I love it.
Okay, sorry, I'm hot. Some people are, I don't know what to say. I'm hot, but I don't know everybody's hot. Okay. So, okay. All right, so one of the things that flipped the switch for me is learning the difference between getting paid for value than getting paid for time. Okay. for instance, being a physician is a perfect example. Physicians are highly regarded, highly paid. But I can tell you, most physicians, even though they're highly paid, they get paid for time. They're not getting paid for the value they bring. So when I was I was taking care of, I was training medical residents, medical students. My salary was half of what my counterparts who were in private practice. I remember when this was in 2000s. When I was in practice, I was making $125,000 a year. I know it may sound like a lot or little to some people, depending on your perspective, but it's nothing compared to what I make now. But I was happy because at the time I had good work-life balance. I wasn't like private practice physicians who were on call. If you think being on call every 3-4 hours is bad, when you have your own practice, you're on call every day. People can call you anytime, any day, things like that. And the bigger your practice, the more you get called every day. So I knew that I wasn't comfortable working twice as hard to make twice as much the money. But I was not happy making $125K a year when I had, at the time, it was $170,000 in student loans. I knew I could be making more money, but I didn't want to have to work twice as much to make that money, okay? So what really made me get out of practice or start looking is when the medical students and medical residents that I trained get hired on as faculty in my group, and they're making 135. And I'm the one who trained them, and I'm making 125. So I went and complained to my boss. I was like, what's going on here? I've been working here 3-4 years. You just hired this guy I trained, and they're making 10K more than I am. This math doesn't add up. He was like, when you work for the state or work for academia, your salary doesn't even go up for inflation, at least in pharma. Even if you don't get a raise or a bonus, you get 1%, 2% raises every year to keep up with inflation. But can you imagine if you're working in a job where you don't go up, your salary doesn't go up for inflation? To recruit new physicians to that job, they have to pay them the going rate for the inflation. So when you adjust for inflation, unless you pay them 135, no one's going to work for you. But the people who've been there forever are going to be making less than the inflation rate because their salary is not being adjusted for inflation. So most people will sit there and take it. I'm not that kind of guy. As I told you guys, if I'm not happy, I'm not afraid of switching. I'm not afraid of trying something else. So that's a part of the reason I started looking in the industry. And so now, as I've been working in the industry all these years, I noticed these CEOs, they're making a lot of money. They're making 20 million, they're making 30 million. And I can't say that all of them work harder than I do, but they definitely bring more value than I do. Otherwise, they would not be getting paid what they're getting paid. So there's a difference between getting paid for time and getting paid for the value you bring to an organization. You understand? So you need to start figuring out the only way you can bring the most value to an organization or to your customers is to know what they want. Okay? So whatever salary I was making at Sanofi, when they laid me off, they gave me like 6 or 7 months severance pay, which means they paid me for 7 months, even though I wasn't working. What other industry will you be laid off and they're paying you when you're not working? There's not a lot of industries like that. But if I didn't bring them incredible value when I was working with them, there's no way they would be paying me even though I'm not working with them anymore. So the point of my story is you need to always be trying to figure out what's valuable to your company, whoever you're working for, whoever your customer is, and try your best to provide as much value as you can for them. That way, that makes you not expendable, meaning not easy for them to get rid of you. Even if they do get rid of you, they will take care of you, because if they didn't think you were valuable, you were never valuable, they could have just laid me off and kept and not given me a severance pay. I'm sure some of you are thinking, if you're so good, if you knew your stuff, why did they lay you off? So that's a great question. So the company, the new CEO made the decision, we're getting away from cardiovascular and diabetes. We're going to focus on immunology, oncology, and rare diseases and neurology. And so basically, they're eliminating everybody. They're doing it in waves. They're not doing everyone at the same time. Even the CMO, they fired. CMO probably makes double or triple than what I make, and he brings way more value than I do. But in business, it's a business. Everything is a business. They don't care about you that much. It's all a business. So once you understand that, you don't take it personal when you get laid off. And I also don't take it personal when I ask people, you got to give me 100,000 sign-on bonus, I'm not working for you. Because just like it's business for them, it's business for me. You know what I mean? But if I didn't have value to bring to them, I can't make those kind of demands. Okay? And if I didn't have 3 other backup jobs, I cannot make that kind of demand. So my point is, you have to make yourself valuable. That way, that's the way you get jobs easily. That's where you can command good income. And the way to make yourself valuable is 1, to be a master of your craft, and 2, to figure out what they want, what your customer, what your employee, what your business partners want, and give it to them better than anybody else can give it to them. You know, I can't sit here and say all these things if I wasn't good at what I do. You know, you can ask Kendra work with me. You know, I'm not just saying things because I got lucky. I really worked hard. I really worked hard. I still work hard. I don't take any jobs for granted. Okay. So next point, we're in business of value creation. Everything is about creating value. You know, if you want to make more money, you got to create more value and give it to more people, as many people as possible. Okay. Stop trading time for money. Instead, trade value for money. Okay. So if you guys were coming here, if you were really concerned about finances and not getting value for being here, most of you probably won't be here because you don't know me from Apple. You don't know that being here would necessarily worth $50. You give up 3 hours or 3.5 hours of your time. So, but you guys are here for value. So money doesn't matter as much. Like the value you get from connecting with each other, the value you get from connecting with me, the value you get from what I'm teaching you guys today. All right. So how do we get there? Slide 11. Before we go to slide 11, there's a book that I highly recommend to everyone. Make sure you read it. It's very short. You can read it in one day. It's called The Go-Giver. Has anyone read it or know about it? The Go-Giver? Instead of Go-Getter, it's Go-Giver.
I've heard of it.
Okay. I think is this slide 2? The Go-Giver summary, slide 2 or 3? You guys? The first book that changed my mindset is slide 4. Okay, go to slide 4. But the first book that changed my mind about business or making money or things like that was Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I'm sure most of you have read that one or heard of that. Okay, if you haven't, I highly recommend you read it. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. The second one was this book called The Go-Giver. It's a very simple, short book. And it's just telling a story. But this story just breaks down all the laws of making money. Right now, I'm teaching, what I want to teach you guys is how to make money, like in your career. I'm going to give you the concepts, and then you're going to apply it to your specific jobs, okay? The first thing is, the more you give, the more you get. This is so cliche. Everybody says it. It's cliche, but it's so true. It's so true. Like, if I didn't give my time, let's say, to Brian, he would not have hooked me up with the interview questions and know the topic to prepare for my Bayer. And without that Bayer job, I would not have had the salary increase, the nice bonus, and things like that. So just by giving time, I got so much out of that. So always look for ways to give. You don't have to just give money. You can give your time. You can give your energy. You can give a smile, things like that. Or you can introduce people, like since I met Austin and his wife, they're the pastors in this church. They've been incredibly giving to me because they saw my hunger to be a better Christian. So they're always teaching me, they're always giving me advice. They have Bible study here on Wednesdays, and I try to come as much as I can, even though I live an hour away. And so I've always wanted to give back, but I try to think, how can I give to them without spending money that I'm saving for my kid, like to go to school, daycare, diapers, all of this stuff. So I said, let me figure out a way to help a lot of people, and whatever money I make from that, I can give them, and also help out an orphanage in Nigeria. And that's how this came about. So I'm really grateful to you guys. So always try to think of ways you can give. And if you can leverage your giving, it's even better, like by doing something like how I did, okay? And the more, if you want to, the law of, so there were basic laws that were described in this book. The first law is the law of value. Your worth is determined by how much you give compared to how much you receive, okay? So that's what your value is, like, but the actual compensation you're gonna get, the quantity of people you serve, that's what determines the compensation. I'll give you an example. Teachers, to me, teachers, that's like one of the most noble professions out there. But they don't get paid a lot of money because how many students are in a class? Like what, 20 kids? Depends on the group. There's someone like a basketball player like Michael Jordan. He makes billions of dollars. When Michael Jordan plays basketball, millions of people watch it and millions of people are entertained. You may not consider entertainment as impactful as teaching. However, he's touching more people than a teacher would be. So, and somebody finds that entertainment valuable at that time, somebody watching that game. So if you want to take your salary to another level, you got to figure out how to serve as many people as possible. Serve them better than anybody else, or serve them differently than anybody else, or, so that's the key. So the reason why I wanted to make that switch from an MSL to an in-house medical affairs director. As an MSL, I was serving a territory, which is a region within a state. As a medical affairs director, I am serving the whole country. Or if I was a global medical affairs director, I'm serving all countries outside of US. So the higher amount of people you're serving, the more your salary goes up, your impact goes up, your influence goes up. I was happy serving Houston because that's where I wanted to be at the time. That's where I wanted to live. That's where my work life, I had great work-life balance. But when I was getting closer to getting married, I knew I needed a different level of salary to maintain a family, and continue to maintain the lifestyle I had. So I had to figure out a way to serve more people. So to serve more people, I said, let me go from doing medical affairs on a regional level to doing it on a national level. And the reason why I keep saying I want to be a VP of medical affairs or CMO is, especially big pharma, you go from serving a country to serving the globe, so that's why my goal is where it is, because I know if I'm serving more people, I'm going to make more money, I'm going to be considered more valuable, and it will give me more flexibility to call my shots, to determine my work-life balance and things like that. So let me pause here. Any questions? Oh man, it's getting close to 12. All right, any questions? Glowing questions on that. All right, you can review the rest of the concepts on that slide. Those on the internet, please, if you have questions, I think someone said the live chat is not working. So just shoot me a text, 832-372-2229. Shoot me a text if there are any points I haven't addressed. So how do you get there? Slide 11. I think we've touched a lot of these topics. If you want to be great, find a way to serve. This is in the Bible. MLK, Martin Luther King, has already said it. If you want to be great, you got to find a way to serve. Life was not designed to give us what we need, but what we deserve. We may think we need this, we need that, we need this, but you don't always get what you need. You get what you deserve. The doors of opportunity are open to those who continually knock. Okay, so all of you are struggling to break into the pharma industry. This is how you do it. I always wanted to know. I wanted to come into pharmaceuticals after I finished my residency, but it took me 4 years to get in. Okay, to the pharmaceutical industry. That's why I practiced for 4 years. If I would have gotten a job right out of residency, I would have never practiced. But it worked out greatly for me that I had that practice because it's helping me till today. But so it's a numbers game. Okay, once you build your expertise, once you become an expert in something in your network, the next thing is the numbers game. You just gotta apply to a lot of jobs. Like this most recent layoff, and I was gonna print out all the rejections that I got. I actually told Kendra and some of my other mentees, we're gonna play a game. We're gonna see who has the most rejections before we find a job. I think I beat you guys by hands down. Kendra found a job within 2-3 weeks of her situation, but it took me longer because I was I was trying to be picky and things like that. But my point is, when I got laid, from the day I was laid off, I was applying to 5 jobs every day. 5 jobs every day. 5 jobs every day. For the 4 jobs I got, I promise you, I had at least 50 people who rejected me. Okay? So that's another thing. You gotta be willing to be rejected. I use rejections as fire, as fuel. I save them. Every single company that's ever rejected me, I have their rejection letters on my computer. I use it as fire. If I applied 5 jobs today and I got a rejection letter today, I'll go to apply to 2 more before I go to sleep. That's the only way I can go to sleep. Is every time I get a rejection, I apply to 2 more jobs. So it's a numbers game. I promise you, if you apply 100 jobs, somebody will give you an interview. And to me, the hardest part about breaking into pharma is getting an interview. Once you get an interview, most of you are good enough to sell yourselves. Or if you're not, that's where I can really help you. I can really help you prepare for an interview and stuff like that. So you guys have my number. Call me when you get an interview. Even before you talk to the recruiter, I need to hear from you so I can help you prepare. You can ask Kendra. We've done it twice. She listened to me sometimes before, things like that. But when she listened to me, she always got the result. Same thing when it comes to that negotiation time. Let me give you the secret to negotiation, okay? This is no secret. Just have multiple offers at the same time. That's the best way you can get your bag. And the way to get multiple offers at the same time is to apply to a lot of jobs at the same time. Most people, when they apply, they'll apply for 1 or 2 jobs. Wait till they hear a rejection, then they go apply to another one. Wait till they get rejection, they go apply to another one. If you use the recipe that I told you, if you apply to 5 jobs every day, when I stopped applying, is when I get like 2 or 3 interviews lined up, then I stop. But if I see I'm not gonna get any of those jobs, I start again. 5 jobs every day, 5 jobs every day. So when you apply to a bunch of jobs in a short burst of time, just playing the odds, especially if you're already an expert, things like that, you'll have a bunch line up at the same time. So when all of them give you your job offers, that will help you know what you're truly worth, number one. Can you imagine I turned down a job from Novartis? Do you know how many people want to work for Novartis right now? But the only way I had the balls to do that is because I had another offer from another company. They were offering me an executive director. Well, Novartis was offering me medical lead. This other company was offering me executive director. Novartis was offering me $5,000 more than I was making. This other company was offering me $25,000 more. So if you see that, you're gonna say no, or you're gonna be able to negotiate with a stronger footing. But if you just have one job offer, or maybe 2, you might not be able to negotiate like that. Austin was getting tired of me. He's like, how many interviews are you gonna do? Every day you're interviewing, every day you're interviewing. Because I was trying to get the best situation for my family, because I don't want to have to switch jobs again. I'm getting tired of moving and switching jobs. Now I'm about to have a kid. Once you have a kid, you can't move like you did when you were single or when you were newly married. So how do you break in? You gotta, one, build your expertise. Two, network like crazy. Network with everyone doing what you're doing, ask them questions, things like that. Then three, apply to a shitload of jobs. Sorry, God, it's gonna strike me. Cursing in church. I'm sorry, but apply to a lot of jobs. Okay, so that answers that question. Then salary negotiation. If you have multiple jobs, it makes it easier for you to negotiate. But not everyone has the luxury of having multiple jobs. So I'll tell you three things. One, do your research. Number two, timing. And number three is leverage. You gotta have leverage. Okay. So let's explain it. Research. Every time you apply for a job, you have to know what the pay range for that job is before you put it down on your, okay. And when you apply for a job, they always ask you what salary you want. Whatever you put, I promise you, she can vouch for it. She's a recruiter. Whatever the lowest range is, if it's within the reason, that's what your first offer is going to be. So, but if you put some ridiculous number, they're not even going to call you for an interview. So when you apply for a job, you got to research. Use pay scale, use Glassdoor in our industry. Call other people doing the same job. Call MSLs. Most people don't want to tell you what they make, but you can ask them, what's the range? What do you think the range is? Before you put something down in the application. I've made the mistake of putting one thing in an application, but when they offer me the job, when they're about to offer me, they ask me, I give them something higher, but they go and give me what I put in the application. So don't put something wrong in the application, too low in the application at the beginning, and don't put something too high, otherwise it will prevent you from getting an interview. So the way to know the right thing to put down, research. Use pay scale, use Glassdoor, ask a bunch of people who work there. That's number one, research. Timing. When's the best time to look for a job? Who can tell me? Around bonus time? That's when you have a job. That's the correct answer. Because whenever you're looking for a job, when you don't have a job, you have less leverage. Unless you're lucky, like some of us who were looking when we had severance pay. But that still hurts you. That hurts you in some ways. For instance, like when you're moving from one state to another, when you get to like director level and executive level, they'll pay to move you. But if you don't have a job when you're being hired, by law, they don't have to move you. So it's always best to look for a job when you're actively working. Okay. So best time to look for a job is when you already have a job. So always be strategic. Don't wait till it's too late. Me, the only reason why I knew that Sanofi was gonna get out of diabetes, but do you know why I did not leave, even though I knew that was happening? Because some of you are like, you're telling me all this stuff, but you got laid off. Okay. When the only reason why I took the Sanofi job, I'm gonna be blunt, my wife is gonna kill me, but from Sanofi, from my Merck job to come to Sanofi, I had like a $60,000 base pay increase and a $100,000 sign-on bonus. That was the only way I was gonna leave Texas, because you gotta pay me, because the money here, I mean the life standard of living here is so much higher than Texas. So the only reason I was willing to leave Texas to come here is the money was so good, the life standard of living change didn't matter. So that's why I left. But when I signed on to Sanofi, they told me, we're gonna give you all this money for sign-on bonus, but you have to work for us for at least 3 years. If you leave before 3 years, you gotta pay back your sign-on bonus. So even though I knew things were going wrong, I could not leave because I would have to pay back all this money. So that's why I stayed until I got laid off. Like getting laid off was a blessing in disguise, because they gave me a severance pay. Not only did I have that sign-on bonus, I got a severance pay, and then with my new job, they gave me a sign-on bonus. You see what I'm saying? So all this would not happen if I wasn't a master of what I do if I didn't network really well, if I wasn't intentional about my career. So I need you guys to be the same way, okay? And then the harder you work, the luckier you get. That's no brainer. So there's a bunch of slides on career development stuff. The slides are self-explanatory. I knew 3 hours wasn't going to be enough. I can talk for days, but I did this to get to meet you guys. You know, I want to, YBP, there are a lot of people in YBP. I've been in YBP all these years. No one has ever reached out to me for advice. So I did a little test. I said, I'm going to put together a conference for YBP. I'll see who's motivated enough and who's to pay to come hear me speak. Whoever is willing to do that, then I'm gonna spend my time to help them more. So this is just the beginning. I know I didn't get through a lot of topics, but if you paid for this workshop, you've earned the right for me to spend my time on you. So you got my number. If you ever have questions, text me first, please. Then if I need to spend a lot of time with you, we'll find some time together to talk. I have way more specific advice than I was able to share. Kendra can ask you, Rachel can ask you. Rachel, I didn't know Rachel until this YBP thing, but after she signed up, I was like, I'll help you out, whatever you need. And we worked together, and something good is about to happen with her. So you guys, by signing up for this workshop, I commit to helping you guys throughout your career. If I'm ever in a position to hire you, as long as you know your stuff and you're a good person, I will help you out. Kendra can attest to the fact I help people. So that's all I have to say. Can you guys ask me some final questions before we wrap it up? I know it's been a long day. There's a food place right next door. If you guys are not too tired, sorry Kendra, I know you have to catch a flight, but we can go there, have lunch. If you have more specific questions, you can ask me over lunch, or just ask me now if you need to run, and I can address it before we leave.
You better test it. It's the best in town.
No, not the fish plate. I want to go to the Brazilian place. Isn't there? What's that spot down there?
The Brazilian.
Yeah, is that walking distance for me?
It's walking, but I could check it out. A lot of people are just.
Yeah, I had the fish place. You love it, but I'm picky, man. I'm from the South. I've had better fish than that. But let's go to the other spot. All right. Any questions? Final questions? I feel bad. I think I could have done better, but I hope this was beneficial to you guys, and we have more time. Yeah.
I don't have any questions.
Okay.
I just want to thank you for putting this together.
Thank you.
And I gained a lot, and we have been speaking offline. And for me, I think this is enough. Like you have to get home to your 9 months pregnant.
Yeah, right. I gotta get home to my wife. She gonna
it's
kill
okay.
it.
Like thank you so much. Like the lunch thing,
No, it's cool. Thank you. But we'll stay in touch. This is the beginning of a relationship. As long as I'm working, if y'all need help, any advice, anything, any coaching, just let me know. And I need you guys to help me out. Put some comments, maybe take some pictures, post it on YBP, post it on those, so people feel like they missed out. If they feel like they missed out, if I decide to do this again, more people will come. My goal was to have 40 people in this room. I only had, let's say, 16 or 17 paying people, maybe about 22 people total. I was very disappointed, to be honest, but it's okay. I went to one of these weekends, I went home to Houston. I went to TSU. I offered the same thing for free. Only 2 people showed up.
Wow.
But those 2 people I've helped till today. One of them just got a fellowship. The other one, she's still in school. I'm gonna help her out. So I can offer to help all I want, unless you take me up on my offer. There's nothing much else I've done. There are people on the line. There's a guy, Mike Okeke. This guy's a beast. He's still in school. He's gonna do big things. He's gonna be like the next Brian. There's another lady, girl, Vera. I don't know if she's still on the line. These are all people still in school that are killing it. So I'm here. I'm offering to be mentor. I'm offering to be champion. I'm offering to be coach. Even if I can't help you directly, I may know someone who can help you. So thank you all for coming, and good luck in your careers. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we should do it. Yeah, let's do a picture. You guys, please post something on YBP, post something on doses. I want to do more of these. I want to get to a point where I can go to different cities and do this, just to help people out, because I feel like there's not enough professionals at my level who are giving back, who are helping people, and so that's one of my missions. So please post about it, tell your friends. I was gonna chop up the video and try to sell it, but I'm not happy with my performance, so I don't know if I'm gonna do that. But yeah, share what you learned, share the slides, share stuff. But I'm not taking on any new. Don't have people calling me because my life is so busy. Yeah, please, can we do a big picture? Yeah. Thank you guys for allowing us to use the venue and giving us time. Where should we head? Should we sit here maybe or?
Okay.
Oh yeah, sorry, you missed it. Huh? Yeah. You go to Redeem? You go to Redeem? Okay. All right, let's sit over here.
The way he said no.
No.
The way he said no.
I'll take out all of that later.
Yeah, I would like to know why no.
I'm sitting with you, since you're giving me.
Are you affiliated with one of me?
No, come sit over here.
It's the same.
Okay, everybody.
They have like them all over.
Come sit.
Is that the way you said no?
No, I feel there's something here that's making me happy. I have allergies to.
I can,
So,
if you sit, I can.
But everybody's afraid to
Can
sit
you, no, you
down.
gotta sit. Everybody sit.
Yeah, yes.
All right. Okay. Thank you all for coming.
Oh,
I
it's
really
still,
appreciate it.
honey, it's still live.
Oh, can you
Because
stop?
I was watching it inside.
Oh,
so,
can you stop? There's a delay, I think. All right.
You want me to end it?
Yes, please. Thank you.
All right, Rachel.
You got it?
Yeah.